Chapter 5188. Haha. Seeing this, Yi Shixiang couldn't help but laugh out loud. This young master has already told you my Yi clan is definitely not what you see. There's no need for that in the future. This young master will let you experience it today. After he finished speaking, Yi Shixiang activated his sword energy, and the golden rapier in his right hand struck the void. Roar! The golden rapier transformed into a flood dragon, and pounced towards the space sealed by the four-spirit blood curse. Crack, crack, crack. The void shattered and the restriction collapsed. The restriction under the four-spirit blood curse was instantly shattered by the golden rapier. Damn it! Yu Tong shouted with a stern expression. Yi Shixiang, you dare to spoil this Yu's plans? This you will not rest until you're dead. Since you want to not rest until you're dead, then so be it. Yi Shixiang laughed nastily. Speaking of which, do you think this young master is afraid of you? As he spoke, Yi Shixiang actually swung the golden rapier again. This time, the golden rapier smashed towards the mountain peak that was supporting the four-spirit blood curse. Boom! The golden rapier transformed into a dragon and hit the center of the mountain peak. With an earth-shaking sound, the huge peak of the mountain was actually shattered by the golden rapier. A small half of the peak collapsed with a crash. The four-spirit blood curse was like a flower bud that had its stem cut off as it slowly fell from the sky. Under the four-spirit blood curse, the four purplish-red whirlpools let out a cryptic sound and abruptly shrank as if they were about to collapse. Yi Shixiang laughed wildly. His figure flashed as he charged towards the abyss that Fairy Hongxia had fallen into. The golden rapier in his hand dimmed. It was obvious that Yi Shixiang couldn't use it continuously. Ha! Before Yi Shixiang could fly closer, he heard the same wild laughter coming from within the four-spirit blood curse. Yu Tong's excited voice sounded. Yi Yaotian, you truly deserve to die. You actually dared to spoil Immortal Envoy Wen's plans. When he finds out, won't he peel off your skin? Ah! Yi Shixiang's figure trembled as he raised his head in astonishment. The expression on his face clearly froze as he argued. What did you say? Why can't I understand? Unfortunately, Yu Tong didn't pay any attention to him. He rubbed his hands together and several thick rays of crystal light appeared. Then Yu Tong waved his hands like butterflies and formed a series of strange seals. As the seals formed, an inexplicable fluctuation appeared and four different colored figures appeared around Yu Tong. Yi Shixiang was stunned. He seemed to have thought of something as an incredulous expression gradually appeared on his face. He didn't dare to rashly use the golden mace that he was waving and instead, he tightly protected his body. In the blink of an eye, four figures of light appeared around the jade board. They were in the shape of a dragon, a phoenix, a tiger, and a vermilion bird. Dang! Yu Tong raised his hand and flicked it. Like the sound of a huge bell, the phoenix figure flew out and fell into the whirlpool that Fairy Hongxia fell into. Woo-woo. A strange wind blew out from the whirlpool. Then with a schwa, the four spirits' blood curse that was originally tightly wrapped around the whirlpool bloomed like a flower. A powerful aura spread out in all directions. The earth shook and the purplish-red whirlpool shrank rapidly. Below the earth, a crystal that was thousands of feet in size flew out from the abyss. This crystal was completely transparent, and was greenish-white in color. Fairy Hongxia was sitting cross-legged at the bottom of the crystal. The ice phoenix celestial body that was spreading its wings was frozen in the center of the crystal. Boom boom. The crystal flew into the sky along with the whirlpool. Wherever it went, space collapsed. All of the purplish-red whirlpools were sucked into the crystal and absorbed by the ice phoenix. Ayo. In the distance, the anxious Hitorigami finally found an opening. He roared and pounced into the four-spirit blood curse. He rushed into one of the whirlpools. Xiao Mao was already powerless to struggle. His body was slowly being torn apart and gradually fell into the edge of the whirlpool. Yu Tong did not even look at Hitorigami. He flicked his finger again. Dang! The vermilion bird figure flew into another whirlpool. Huang Mingxiang's eyes were tightly shut. A fiery red vermilion bird figure was also frozen in the crystal. Like Fairy Hongxia, it was slowly being pulled out of the ground. the ice phoenix and vermilion bird crystals flew out. The crystal that fell under Yin Guicheng's feet immediately detached from his body and flew to the two crystals like a spiritual snake, entangling them. Then, a gloomy coldness mixed with a black shadow completely enveloped one side of the four-spirit blood curse. Senior Yu? Yun Jiecheng was originally channeling the blood curse of the four spirits with all his might, but when Yi Shixiang destroyed the mountain peak, he suddenly discovered that his magic power was everywhere in the void. Everything was out of his control. At this moment, the crystal light had also disappeared, causing him to be at a loss. He could not help but ask softly, What's going on? Ding. Yutong did not answer Yin Guicheng. Instead, he flicked his finger and the tiger-shaped light figure fell into a whirlpool. Boom. This time was different from before. A roar sounded from the whirlpool. A huge suction force grabbed Yin Guicheng like a giant hand. Yin Guicheng was shocked. He asked anxiously, Senior Yu, what's going on? Seeing that Yin Guicheng was being grabbed by the suction force, Yutong smiled faintly and said, Junior Yin, thank you. The flame dragon is an extremely important true spirit bloodline in the four-spirit blood curse. How can I not have you to urge the four-spirit blood curse? But Yin Guicheng felt that his physical body was gradually being torn apart. He really did not expect that his previous vigilance would come true in the end. However, he still did not dare to believe it. Doesn't the flame dragon bloodline have Yin Xiaoying? Didn't the four-spirit blood curse? I also set it up bit by bit. Yin Xiaoying is a female cultivator. How can she bear the flame dragon bloodline? Yutong smiled and said, Also, the four-spirit blood curse you set up is only a four-spirit blood curse. It's not the formation I wanted to set up. Then, Yin Guicheng's flesh had already started to shatter. He still shouted with his eyes wide open, Then why, humph? At this moment, Yi Shixiang snorted coldly in the distance. Idiot! You've been used by Yutong. This young master has also been used by him. Although the four-spirit blood curse you set up was not wrong, and this young master has even moved the position of the four-spirit blood curse, it did not affect his plan at all. Also, your four-spirit blood curse is not complete. Only by overturning the mountain that supports the four-spirit blood curse will the four-spirit blood curse truly take shape. This young master wanted to destroy the four-spirit blood curse, but I didn't expect that it would still complete the four-spirit blood curse. I understand. Yin Guicheng's face turned distressed. He looked at Yutong and said softly, Senior Martial Brother Yu, could it be that this plan of yours has already started 1,000 years ago? Yutong nodded and said, That's right. From the moment this young master saw you, your fate has already been decided. There are very few humans in this world who possess the true spirit bloodline. If I don't use you, who else can I use? Asking a tiger for its skin, Yin Guicheng smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that I would still die in the hands of the person I trust the most in the end. Don't talk about trust. Yutong said coldly. You don't have the right to say this. You're just using each other. Perhaps Fairy Hongxia and Huang Mengxiang have the right to say this. Kacha. With the sound of bones being torn apart, Yin Guicheng was dragged into the whirlpool while screaming miserably. Woo-woo. Just as Yin Guicheng fell into the whirlpool, a strange sound came from the edge of the whirlpool. Drought Demon was protecting Xiao Mao. Because the two of them could not resist the suction force, their bodies glowing with blood-red light also fell into the whirlpool. Then, with a rumbling sound, Yin Xiaoying and the flame dragon celestial body also turned into crystals and flew out. However, Yin Xiaoying had already turned into an empty shell. Her flesh and blood had long been minced. As the third crystal flew out, a layer of heat and light was born from the crystal, piercing into the void and separating the entire space from the ice phoenix and the vermilion bird. Yi Shixiang narrowed his eyes and watched all of this. He sensed a kind of barrier that he could not resist slowly appearing from the light and darkness. An inconceivable feeling arose. His figure was pushed back. Even the dragon image of the golden Jian could not resist. He looked at Yutong again. He was not in a hurry to push the last tiger-shaped light shadow into the whirlpool. Instead, he formed hand seals again and sent rays of light into the three crystals. Countless strange light shadows were born. Waves of movements that seemed like the groans of heaven and earth were emitted. Gradually, all the light shadows and strange phenomena converged into the three crystals. This, Yi Shixiang asked in a deep voice, this is the legendary Four Spirits sacred body, right? Oh. Yutong raised his brows. His hands did not stop forming hand seals. Instead, he looked at Yi Shixiang with slight surprise and said, Yi Yaotian, your knowledge is not bad. You can actually see that this is the Four Spirits sacred body? This time, Yi Shixiang did not deny it. Instead, he asked back, the so-called Four Spirits sacred body is a physical body condensed from the bloodline of the four sacred spirits. Even my Yi clan does not know about this kind of secret technique. It seems like only the people of the immortal world know about it. Yutong, where did you come from? At this point, Yi Yaotian, who had transformed into Yi Shixiang, suddenly asked, who exactly are you? Where is Immortal Emissary One? Haha. Yutong raised his head and laughed loudly. He said, Yi Yaotian, oh Yi Yaotian, where could Immortal Emissary One be? He's far away on the horizon, but right in front of you. As he spoke, Yutong pointed at the last tiger-shaped light shadow. That light shadow fell into the whirlpool with a dang sound. Then, an enormous suction force actually firmly grabbed Yutong himself. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, tip, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wu Qing, Alun, Jeshin, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demon Flower, and so on for their tips. Today, I'll add more chapters for you guys. Some of the names of the members were not completely counted. I hope everyone can understand. Also, if nothing unexpected happens, today will be the last time I'll update 10 times in a row before the end of God Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherish it. Chapter 5189. Woo-woo. A faint black shadow suddenly emerged from Yutong's forehead, and a human figure the size of a thumb flew out from within. This figure wasn't complete, and it looked scattered. Between each fragment, there were strange distortions, and within each fragment, there were different degrees of dark light trembling. Following the appearance of the human figure, countless bright silver immortal qi emerged from the void, rushing into the shadows like strands of hair. A moment later, a thumb-sized figure flashed with silver light and appeared. Although this figure was very small, the silver light it emitted was so brilliant, and the aura it emitted was so fierce and vast that it actually caused the void to collapse. You're Immortal Envoy One? Damn it, why didn't this old man think of it? Seeing this aura, Yi Yaotian's entire body went limp. He let out a low cry, wanting to escape, but he couldn't even move a finger. Yi Yaotian, the silver figure said indifferently. This old man is only willing to cooperate with you because you're the head of the Yi family. It's a pity you don't know how to cherish it. If you didn't ruin this old man's plans today, when this old man controls the Dawn Rain continent in the future, it would be the day your Yi family dominates the world. Today, you've truly disappointed this old man. Following the silver figure's words, Yutong's body was also minced, falling into the vortex. At the same time, the Yu family disciple named Yu Insong was left with only an empty shell, flying out with the silver tiger body. Immortal Envoy, please spare my life. Immortal Envoy, please spare my life. Yi Yaotian couldn't care about anything else and hurriedly begged, since you need subordinates in the Dawn Rain continent, this junior and my Yi family disciple are willing to serve Immortal Envoy. The human heart. The silver figure said indifferently. Why is it always like this? The previous opportunity was right in front of you, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Only now do you know how to regret it. Do you know how many people in this world wish for such an opportunity? As he spoke, the silver tiger's crystal flew to the same place as the flame dragon's crystal. Whoosh! 4 bursts of innate bloodline power surged out of the 4 crystals at the same time, spreading in all directions. Of course, the bloodline power only spread out for several kilometers before sweeping violently and crashing into the center of the 4 crystals like a myriad of streams returning to their origin. Hong! The bloodline powers collided, and a deep sound was heard. After this sound, The four bloodline powers merged into one place, piercing deep into the void. Ka 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 ka. The continuous sound pierced through layer after layer of void, and finally piercing into an unknown place. Then the aura of the ice phoenix and vermilion bird's crystals, ants the darkness and coldness, and darkness. At the same time, the heat and light of the flame dragons and silver tiger's light also turned into a light curtain, and the aura's aura. At the same time, the heat and light of the flame dragon and silver tiger's aura. Ha ha ha. The silver figure saw a spot of blood appear where the light and shadow fell, and laughed wildly. He waved his hands, and the two rays of light that were entangling the four crystals were instantly filled with blood-red light. They pierced straight into the light, and his body swayed, about to fall into it. Rumble, rumble, rumble. At this time, the space that was sealed by the four spirits' blood curse was suddenly broken apart by thunder. Yi Yaotian, who didn't know what was happening outside, suddenly heard the sound of thunder from outside the blood curse. At this moment, a divine sense as vast as the heavens came from the distance. After sweeping through the four spirits' blood curse, a burst of incomparable anger came from the divine sense. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The seemingly indestructible seal was instantly shattered by the divine sense. The four crystals that were about to fuse together began to tremble, and began to fall. Damn it. The silver figure was shocked, and he roared. Luo Xingtian, you dare to break this, daddies. No, you're not Luo Xingtian, you actually have the strength of a great saint of the demon race? Following the silver figure's shocked roar, a voice louder than thunder came. Damn it. How dare you? Following that, a tall and thin cultivator streaked across the sky faster than lightning, and instantly landed on the four spirits' blood curse. This cultivator's phoenix eyes were slanted, and those starry eyes were filled with anger. Xiaohua. The silver figure was inexplicably shocked, and shouted in disbelief. Yi Yaotian also cried out, Spiritual Master Xiao? You're not dead yet? Unfortunately, Xiaohua's gaze was fixed on Fairy Hongxia, who was sealed in the crystal, and completely ignored their shock. The silver figure suddenly understood something, and without any hesitation his body swayed, and a silver light flashed, and he immediately disappeared from the spot. He had been killed by the great saint of the demon race and the celestial envoy's human form. How could he not know the power of the great saint of the demon race? The moment the silver figure disappeared, Xiaohua laughed coldly and said, If I don't kill you, how can I dare to see Fairy Hongxia? After saying that, Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the sword gourd. Following the activation of the spirit-slaying vital light, a black and white ray of light shot out from the sword gourd, and directly into the void. The void was torn apart, and pieces of it collapsed. The black and white ray of light blocked the void, and the already disappeared silver figure appeared from the void. Seeing the silver figure appear, within the black and white ray of light, the spirit-slaying vital light split into two colors, yin and yang, and ferociously rushed forward. Wherever the yin and yang light passed, everything was destroyed, regardless of whether it was the collapsed void, or the spiritual pressure of the silver figure. Nothing could stop it. Pooh! With a soft sound, the spirit-slaying vital light landed on the head of the panicking silver figure. Roar! As if in pain, a tiger's roar came from the silver figure, and a silver light like a white tiger appeared from the silver figure's head, blocking the spirit-slaying vital light. Ah, spirit! Spirit-slaying vital light? How can there be spirit-slaying vital light in the Dawn Rain continent? The silver figure was shocked, and shouted in disbelief. Xiaohua looked at the silver figure and the tiger-shaped silver light, and couldn't help but think of the immortal messenger with the surname Shen, and Fire Phoenix King's words. He raised his hand, and stopped the spirit-slaying vital light, and asked, Is your surname Wen? Yes, yes. The silver figure heard and quickly nodded. This old man is immortal messenger one. And Xiaohua nodded and said, Since it's like this, you can die. With that, Xiaohua used his hand to point again. Pooh! With a soft sound, the spirit-slaying vital light slightly trembled, and pierced through the tiger-shaped silver light, and deeply pierced into the immortal human figure. How is this possible? The silver figure shouted, and then no longer made any sound. And Xiaohua raised his hand, and a dark green crystal light landed between the silver figure's eyebrows. Haha, you came at the right time. At this time, a sound came from the sky, and sunlight scattered everywhere. The void was torn, and Huang Tong flew out. He saw the dim silver figure wave his hand, and threw a few people into the air. He spread his wings and landed, and protected Xiao Hua. He shouted, I have worked so hard for so long, no one can fight with I for this great tonic. Xiao Hua's face was like frost, and he retracted his finger, with the spirit-slaying vital light in the sword gourd intersecting. Pooh! The dim silver figure's head fell from the silver light, as if the real head was killed by the spirit-slaying vital light. Gee! Seeing the silver figure being destroyed, Huang Tong, who was guarding at the side, opened his mouth, and the tiger-shaped silver light was immediately swallowed by him. Rays of silver light seeped out of his body. His demon body swelled uncontrollably. Countless stars and moon powers appeared in the void around him. However, it only lasted for a moment before Huang Tong flapped her wings. The power of the stars and moon disappeared, and all the strange phenomena disappeared. Why did you bring them here? Xiao Hua looked at the three people brought by Huang Tong, and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't you go to imprison Dongshan Yi? Huang Tong shrugged and smiled. I was going to return to the Imperial Thunder Sect after imprisoning Dongshan Yi, but on the way back, I heard that the Fortune Gate was coming to the Sky Patrol City to stop the marriage between Fairy Hongxia and the Yi clan. I knew that if you were not in the Sky Patrol City, you must be on your way here, so I came directly to the Sky Patrol City. On the way here, I met the three of them who were also rushing to the Sky Patrol City, so I brought them here. Oh, also, thanks to your help, I don't want to talk about the excitement on the way here. The Fortune Gate's name has spread across the entire Dawn Rain continent. Almost all the sect masters of the so-called Three Kingdoms of Cultivation have brought their disciples here. Xiao Hua's lips curled into a sneer, and he looked at the distant horizon and said, they should be here. The Dawn Rain continent is no longer under their control. If they don't come, they will be kicked out of this continent. Taoist Master Xiao. A timid and anxious voice urged, Hongxia, is she okay? This voice naturally belonged to Wuxia. Since Wuxia had appeared, how could Li Zongbao not come? Li Zongbao nodded at Xiao Hua, and did not urge him. He knew that Xiao Hua had a sense of propriety, and Xiao Hua was more anxious than Wuxia. Greetings, Taoist Master Xiao. After Yi Yin respectfully bowed to Xiao Hua, his gaze fell on Yi Yaotian, who was beside him, who was in a daze. Taoist Kai, don't worry. Xiao Hua said to Wuxia. This is a demonic formation to achieve the Four Spirits sacred body, and it is mixed with immortal spiritual energy. Although I already know the method to break the formation, it involves the lives of 3 people, so I still need to think carefully. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua, Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wuqing, Aluan, Jeshin, Lishao 777, Little Duan Demon Flower, and so on for their rewards. Today I will update for you, but some of the names of the people are not fully recorded. I hope everyone can understand. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the end of the Cultivation God. I hope everyone likes it and cherish it. Chapter 5190. Alright. Wuxia did not dare to urge him. She only said one word and did not say anything else. Li Zongbao stretched out his hand and held on to Wuxia's small hand. However, he felt that Wuxia's hand was covered in sweat. Clearly, she was extremely worried. Who would have thought that Xiao Hua did not look at the 4 crystals? Instead, he turned his head to look at Yi Yaotian and said, You are the Yi clan's patriarch? Spiritual Master Xiao, please spare my life. Spiritual Master Xiao, please spare my life. Yi Yaotian saw that Xiao Hua had easily killed Emissary One. That aura that he found hard to describe was emitted from Emissary One's body. He knew that he was definitely not Xiao Hua's opponent. He hurriedly knelt down and said, This was all Emissary Wen's orders. Even if this junior had the guts as big as the sky, he would not dare to provoke. AI, if this old man did not search your soul, I'm afraid that I would have been deceived by you. Xiaohua sighed. He looked at Yi Yaotian and said, moreover, this old man was entrusted by Yi Zhen. I also wanted to protect your Yi clan. However, you were extremely daring. You actually dared to scheme against this old man's Dao companion. Even if you died 10,000 times, it would still not be able to extinguish the anger in this old man's heart. When Yi Yaotian heard the name Yi Zhen, he was so scared that his soul flew out of his body. He immediately collapsed in midair. Logically speaking, you are merely a third-grade sword transformation realm cultivator. With this old man's status, I should not make things difficult for you. Xiaohua's face was cold. He said in a low voice, however, with this kind of karma, how could this old man let others do it? After he finished speaking, Xiaohua did not seem to use any divine ability. Ka-cha-cha. A layer of lightning surged out from Yi Yaotian's body. In an instant, Yi Yaotian was killed. Within the lightning, a human-shaped primordial spirit struggled to fly out. However, the merciless lightning instantly annihilated it. Yi Yaotian's body and soul were destroyed. Xiaohua raised his hand again, and Yi Yaotian's sword pouch fell into his hand. Xiaohua looked at it for a moment, then took out the spirit artifact and stored the sword pouch into his bosom. His eyes were looking at the four spirits' blood curse, and his divine sense was probing the spirit artifact. Although they knew that there were reinforcements coming from afar, and they even seemed to have seen Jinren Shao, who they often saw in their souls, Zhong Haoren, Fei Yunshu, and Zhong Zhan knew that it was just water in the distance that could not quench their thirst. The sword cultivator from the Celestial Patrol City had already flown close to them, and they could no longer see the sun of tomorrow. They looked at each other. Their previously despairing hearts were now filled with hope, and an inexplicable joy surged into their hearts. For Jinren Shao, a soundless cry came from their hearts. The three of them urged their sword lights and Jinyuan to rush toward the sword cultivator like moths to a flame. They wanted to emit the last bright light before they died. At this critical moment, Fengwu arrived and released Yuanya and the others. Yuanya stood in midair and immediately saw the danger Zhong Haoren and the others were in. He roared, "Who dares to hurt my Fortune Gate's disciples?" As he spoke, he swung the devil spear in his hand. Swish! There was no surge of devil chi, and the spear's afterimages killed all the sword cultivators in front of Zhong Haoren and the others. Yuanya did not say anything. He waved his hand and pulled the three of them up into the sky. As for the other Celestial Patrol City's sword cultivator disciples, they paused for a moment when Yuanya made his move. Then they rushed toward the Fortune Gate's disciples who were fighting with the Void Heaven Sword School in the south. They knew they were no match for Yuanya, so they didn't even bother to look. Yuanya arrogantly swept his gaze over these ant-like sword cultivators. He disdained to make a move. Zhong Haoren and the others were still in a state of shock. They looked at Yuanya and the Fengwu in confusion. Zhong Haoren was about to say something when Fengwu's eyes flashed with joy. He exclaimed, "Oh my, there's actually something good." But before he could finish, Fengwu's figure disappeared in a flicker. Say, "Senior." With Fengwu gone, the pressure in the sky was greatly reduced. Zhong Haoren's mouth was dry. He looked at Yuanya, Xiangjili, and the others, then saluted Yuanya. "Junior, thanks Senior for saving my life. May I know if Senior?" Zhong Zhan was the most alert. He had heard Yuanya shout at the critical moment. When he saw Zhong Haoren saluting Yuanya, he bowed to Xiangjili and the others. "Junior Zhong Zhan thanks Senior for saving my life. May I ask if Senior is also a Fortune Gate's disciple?" Yuanya ignored Zhong Haoren. It was not that he looked down on Zhong Haoren, but he did not understand the situation on the Dawn Rain mainland, and was unwilling to speak. At this time, Xiangjili looked regretful as he said to Zhong Zhan, "AI, it's a pity that I'm not a Fortune Gate's disciple." Then, Zhong Zhan was stunned, and turned to look at Yuanya in confusion. At this time, Xiangjili's drawling voice sounded again. "I want to enter the Fortune Gate, but foster father said that there is no need for me to enter. The Fortune Gate belongs to him, which means it belongs to me." "Ah?" Zhong Zhan was shocked. He looked at Xiangjili again, and a bad feeling rose in his heart. Don't listen to his nonsense. Yuanya couldn't help but say, Sect Master has said that the Fortune Gate belongs to all Fortune Gate's disciples. Yuanya suddenly raised his head and looked at the east side of the Sky Patrol City. A sharp sword light was rushing towards them like a meteor. The sword light's momentum seemed to be able to tear the sky apart. His name is Xiang Zhili, a disciple of the lightning-controlling sect's Thousand Lightning Valley. He is also Taoist Zhao's foster son. You can ask him if you have any questions. As Yuanya said this, his figure flickered, and a brilliant light surged around him. In just a moment, his fierce demonic aura blocked the sword light. Xiang Zhili? You're Xiang Zhili? Zhong Haoran was even more shocked. He looked at Xiang Zhili and said, You. What's wrong? Haven't you seen such a young nascent Soul Realm senior? Xiang Zhili asked with a smile. Why aren't you coming over to greet him? Yes. Zhong Haoran, Zhong Zhan, and Fei Yunshu were overjoyed. They hurriedly tidied up their blood-stained robes and prepared to greet Xiang Zhili. Xiang Zhili was obviously joking with them. Seeing that the three of them were serious, he hurriedly waved his hand to support them. He smiled and said, Don't. I'm just joking with you. You are my Fortune Gate's great heroes. It's more appropriate for me to greet you. If you greet me, won't Godfather scold me? Xiang Zhili quickly took out some medicinal pills and handed them to the three of them. He said, These are the medicinal pills bestowed by Godfather. Quickly take them. Yes. Zhong Haoran and the others were so happy that their eyes were wet. They hurriedly swallowed the medicinal pills. Wu Qing looked at Zhong Zhan's broken arm and said indifferently, We don't dare to touch your injuries. When the battle is over, we'll ask the Bear Palm Gate and the others. Their medicinal pills are the most suitable. At the very least, we'll ask Senior Brother Xiao to help. Bear Palm Gate? Senior Brother Xiao? Fei Yunshu looked at the young man with unfathomable strength in front of him. So it's Senior Wu Qing. Zhong Zhan was pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly bowed and said, Junior has long heard of Senior's name, but I didn't expect to meet you today. You are a Fortune Gate's great hero. There's no need to be so polite. Wu Qing's expression remained unchanged as he helped Zhong Zhan up. Since they knew that one of the two cultivators in front of them was Xiang Zhili, and the other was Wu Qing, Cui Yingying's identity was obvious. Zhong Haoran and Fei Yunshu hurriedly saluted Cui Yingying. Get up. Cui Yingying's voice was still shy, and her face was flushed red. She helped the two of them up, then took out a jade bottle and handed it to Zhong Zhan. This is a medicinal pill given to me by Gate Master Li Xiang. He said it's for Fortune Gate's disciples to treat external injuries. Try it. This is Senior's medicinal pill. Junior doesn't dare to take it. Zhong Zhan hurriedly waved his hand to decline. Quickly take it. Cui Yingying said in a low voice. Your injuries are very serious, and we don't know when this battle will end. Don't damage your Dao Foundation. Many thanks, Senior. Zhong Zhan thought for a moment, then bowed. The Fortune Gate's medicinal pills were naturally created by the heavens and earth. After Zhong Zhan took the medicinal pill, his severed arm began to grow, and his palm was slowly forming. Zhong Haoran. Xiang Zhili squinted his eyes as he looked at the sword qi in the distance. It was hard to tell whether he was mocking or envious as he said, You're really something. A Fortune Gate's summoning order actually caused such a huge battle. Zhong Haoran was a little frightened, and he bit his lip as he said, This matter is far from what Senior thinks. Junior and the others have also fallen into someone else's trap. Oh? Xiang Zhili asked curiously, What's going on? Zhong Haoran was about to speak when Wu Qing interrupted. Let's talk as we walk. The battle over there is in full swing. We can't just stand by and watch, right? Cui Yingying's eyes were sharp, and she saw an intermediate gold core cultivator in a critical situation. She hurriedly pointed at him and said, That cultivator is in danger. I'll go and rescue him. Zhong Zhan's gaze swept over, and he said coldly, That's Wu Cheng from the Intelligent Pavilion. He seemed to be the one who led the escape. Humph. Xiang Zhili snorted. This young master hates those who run away from battle the most. Junior sister, don't bother with him. It's better if he dies. Yes, eldest senior brother. Although Cui Yingying couldn't bear to see him die, she still listened to Xiang Zhili and didn't move. Zhong Haoran said in a low voice. Actually, the situation was critical at that time. Martial uncle. Fei Yunshu hurriedly reminded. When Wu Qing escaped, the sword cultivators who surrounded him had yet to appear. Oh. Zhong Haoran was a little dejected, but he asked again, Senior, what's the deal with the Bear Palm Gate and Gate Master Li Xiang that you mentioned earlier? Of course these two are the Gate Masters of the Fortune Gate. Xiang Zhili said with a smile, but he had just said a few words when he became impatient again. He turned to Cui Yingying and said, Junior sister, Li Xiang taught you a lot of cultivation techniques, so you must be familiar with the Fortune Gate. Why don't you tell me? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it a tip. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wuqing, Aluan, Jeshan, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, Thebluski 1, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Divinity Cultivation Fan, Guff 8547985, and so on. Today I'll add more chapters for you, but some of the names are not fully accounted for, so I hope everyone can understand. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last time I'll update 10 times in a row before the finale. I hope everyone likes it and cherishes it. Chapter 5191. Yes, eldest senior brother. Cui Yingying responded as usual and slowly told him what she knew about the Fortune Gate. Zhong Haoran, Fei Yunshu, and Zhong Zhan listened attentively and flew to the battlefield under the protection of the three nascent soul masters. Zhong Haoran and the others were naturally saved from death's door. On top of the Sky Patrol City, the quilted mountain sex Xueqing was dumbfounded. He did not panic when he saw the Fortune Gate Sky Patrol City's sword formation being defeated. He only looked into the distance and wanted to know what other tricks the Fortune Gate had up their sleeves. However, when he saw the sword chi, he was overjoyed. Before he could send out the signal to attack, Yi Guxing sent him a message. After reading the message, Xueqing understood that the sword cultivator, who came from afar, might not be the reinforcements. Moreover, he also understood something in an instant. However, before he could fly to Yi Guxing for a discussion, Yi Guxing's second message arrived. The message clearly stated that even if the sword cultivators besieging the Fortune Gate were enemies and not friends, they were still sword cultivators from the Huan country. The three swords gates guarding the Sky Patrol City had already lost the initiative by not knowing that the Fortune Gate was besieging the Fortune Gate. Their current plan was to kill the Fortune Gate's disciples first, and let the incoming sword cultivators face the Sky Patrol City directly. Therefore, the bloodthirsty Xueqing did not hesitate and released almost all the sword and beast cultivators. When he saw the Fortune Gate's disciples fleeing in panic and Zhong Haoran, Fei Yunshu, and Zhong Zhan dying, a trace of excitement appeared in his heart. However, this excitement was instantly erased by Xiaohua's divine sense and the thunderous battle prowess of the Fortune Gate's disciples. When Fengwu appeared and Yuanya killed hundreds of sword cultivators, he was completely stunned. Before Fengwu could fly away, he had already left the Sky Patrol City's south gate and flew to the east gate. What a joke! Not to mention the demon clan that was as vast as the stars. Even the sword formation of the Sky Patrol City could not withstand the power of the spear from the Taoist cultivator, who held the Devil Spear. What was the use of staying at the south gate? Gu Jianyu. Before he reached the Sky Patrol City's east gate, Xueqing shouted, "What's going on?" Almost at the same time, a light broke through the sky from Xueqing's left and Zhuang Heng's voice sounded. Gu Jianyu. Hee. Xueqing sneered. He knew that the west gate was naturally further away from the east gate than the south gate was from the east gate. Zhuang Heng had arrived right after him. Zhuang Heng had left his post earlier than him. Xueqing focused his gaze and saw that the battle situation at the Sky Patrol City's east gate was similar to the south gate. The Mountain Patrol Sword Sect's disciples were the closest to the Sky Patrol City. There were about 100,000 of them. And the ones facing them were the Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate's disciples. After the Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate's disciples, there were some Sword Cultivator and Dao Cultivator's disciples. There were also many of them, about 100,000 of them. However, they did not attack the Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate's disciples. Instead, they turned around and attacked the Tao Cultivator's disciples behind them. The number of Tao Cultivator's disciples that arrived at the end was not many, perhaps 100,000 of them. However, these disciples were the strongest, and the hundreds of thousands of Sword Cultivator and Tao Cultivator's disciples were no match for them. The battle situation was very similar to the battle between the Sky Patrol City and the Fortune Gate's disciples. Zhuanghong only took a glance and hurriedly said, "Yi Jianyu, there's no need to look anymore. The situation here is similar to the Sky Patrol City's West Gate. I'm here to ask for your advice because I don't understand. What should we do next?" Yi Guxing shook his head slightly and replied, "I don't know either. My Mountain Patrol Sword Gate's disciples have been sent out. Other than the disciples maintaining the sword formation, there's no one else in the Sky Patrol City that can be used. Moreover, the situation is unclear, so we can't participate in the battle personally." Xueqing retracted his gaze and looked at Yi Guxing and Zhuanghong. He said, "Although I don't know what happened, I know who the enemy is and who the reinforcements are. Quick, tell us." Yi Guxing and Zhuanghong's eyes lit up, and they hurriedly urged him. Xueqing raised his hand and pointed. "The Sword Cultivator's disciples behind them are my Sky Patrol City's reinforcements. The disciples behind them are Fortune Gate's disciples. They are Zhong Haoren's backup." Yi Guxing frowned and asked curiously, "How do you know?" "Because Zhong Haoren, Fei Yunshu, and Zhong Zhan were saved by a Tao Cultivator, whose strength even I couldn't see through." Xueqing said word by word. "That Tao Cultivator even said, 'Who dares to hurt my Fortune Gate's disciples?'" Ah! Yi Guxing was shocked. Because the Sky Patrol City's sword array was activated, his divine sense was blocked, so he couldn't see the situation in the south. However, when he heard that there was a Tao Cultivator whose strength even Xueqing couldn't see through, he couldn't help but exclaim, "There's such a Tao Cultivator? Which sect master is he?" Not only that, Xueqing didn't stop until he was shocked. He continued, "Although I can't see through his strength, I'm sure he's a demonic beast more powerful than that Tao Cultivator." Demonic beast? Yi Guxing was stunned. A 9th grade demonic beast? That's not right. Zhuanghong was surprised. He raised his hand and pointed at the Sword Cultivator in the distance and exclaimed, That seems to be Void Heaven Sword School's Qin Jing. Oh, and that's Heavenly Demon Sect's Yang Ji. He seems to be the Earth Spirit Sect's Deputy Sect Master. How could they be reinforcements?" Buzz. Just as they were talking, a sharp sword light came from the eastern horizon like a shooting star. Before the sword light arrived, the sword will arrived first. The sword cultivators near Sky Patrol City all heard the sound of swords humming. Senior Spirit Sword? Yi Guxing was very sensitive to the sword intent, and couldn't help but exclaim in ecstasy. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, boom! A black shadow streaked across the sky and blocked the sword light with a terrifying aura. It's him! Xueqing exclaimed. "This is the Tao Cultivator whose strength I don't know." Yi Guxing and Zhuanghong looked at each other, their eyes full of fear. How could they measure the strength of a Tao Cultivator, who could block Senior Spirit Sword? What about the divine sword like divine thought just now? Xueqing thought of something and asked again. It seems that the divine thought fell to the north of the Sky Patrol City. What divine sword divine thought? Not only Yi Guxing, but Zhuanghong was also stunned and asked curiously. Xueqing's heart thumped and he hurriedly explained. Just now, after all the sword cultivators in the Sky Patrol City set out, about half a cup of tea's time. But at this point, Xueqing shut up again. How could the two sword cultivators not know when such a terrifying divine thought was released? Unless the person did not want them to know. Xueqing suddenly realized that the reason why he detected the divine thought was because Zhong Haoren and the other two were at the south of the Sky Patrol City. The Fortune Gate disciples had retreated to the east and west of the city, so the person controlled the range of the divine thought. Naturally, Yi Guxing and Zhuanghong could not have detected it. Moreover, the person came at lightning speed. At that time, the entire Sky Patrol City was surrounded by lightning, so the two of them could not see the person's whereabouts. The north of the Sky Patrol City. Xuecheng hurriedly pointed to the north of the Sky Patrol City and shouted, "The divine thought fell there." Yi Shixiang. Yi Guxing shouted and rushed to the north gate of the Sky Patrol City, without caring about anything else. Zhuanghong and Xuecheng did not dare to delay, and followed behind with doubts. When they hurried to the west gate of the Sky Patrol City, they saw the 4 huge crystals, and the strange phenomenon imprisoned in the sky. They were dumbfounded again. They did not expect that there would be such a magical formation in this world that they could not detect it even though it was so close. When the 3 sword masters of the Sky Patrol City arrived, Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. Xiaohua confidently said to Feng Wu and Huang Tong, who had eaten Immortal Envoy when Xian's tiger-shaped silver tiger, "Fellow Taoists, please protect Senior Brother Li and the others and retreat. I already know what to do." "Fellow Taoist Xiao." Huang Tong waved her claws and protected Li Zongbao and the others. She flew to the side and reminded, "You have to be careful. This formation is very strange. I can smell the aura of the demon leak from it." "Thank you for your reminder." Xiaohua nodded and said, "I have already detected it. This formation is mysterious and its fluctuations are restrained. It seems to be set up on the Dawn Ring continent, but part of it is hidden in the void. Moreover, this formation does not involve the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It only controls the bloodline. There are even traces of a soul formation. If I did not search your soul and did not understand the power of bloodline, I am afraid I would not dare to act rashly. If you have a plan, you can do it." Feng Wu did not fly far away. Instead, she landed on the other side of the 4 spirits' blood curse and said faintly, "If you need I to do it, just let me know." "Well said." Xiaohua smiled slightly and raised his hand. The sword gourd that had killed Yu Tong flew out again, and landed in the center of the 4 spirits' blood curse. With the incantation, a spirit-slaying light fell from the sky and nailed the center of the bloody light. The moment the 4 spirits' blood curse was nailed, there was a huge rumbling sound again. The 4 seemingly light crystal-like objects suddenly became heavy. An indescribable aura was emitted from the crystals. Countless gorgeous lights and shadows were also emitted from the crystals. The void shook, and the 4 spirits' blood curse slowly fell from the void into the Dawn Ring continent. Waves more violent than the waves spread in all directions. Wherever the waves passed, the earth and mountains shook. Among the cultivators and sword cultivators who were fighting, those with shallow strength could not even stand in midair. One by one, they fell down like gravel. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang Wu Qing, Aluan, Jeshan, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, GUF 854, 7985, and other rewards. Today, I will update for you. Some of the names of the people were not fully counted, so I hope everyone can understand. In addition, if nothing unexpected happens, today will be the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherish it. Chapter 5192. Ka Ka Ka. The sword array closest to the 4 spirit blood curse was naturally the Skyguard City's sword array. Under the 4 spirit blood curse's aura, the sword array immediately cracked and collapsed like a fragile ice cube. Damn it! Yi Guxing and the others cursed. They hurriedly wanted to reinforce the sword formation, but before they could do so, the sword light of the sword formation was suddenly annihilated, and the sword formation turned into nothingness. At the same time, above the 4 spirits' blood curse, the lightning in the sky reappeared, and an indescribable confinement of heaven and earth gradually formed around the lightning. Xiaohua's figure stood in the middle of this strange phenomenon with a strange expression on his face. He thought to himself, "Oh my, no wonder the 4 spirits' blood curse used by the immortals in the immortal world to condense the 4 sacred spiritual bodies has such a strange phenomenon even before it is activated. This kind of formation based on the immortal formation should not exist in the Dawn Rain continent. However, to Fairy Wuxia and the others, this immortal formation is a great calamity, but at the same time, it is also a great opportunity. I originally wanted to let Fairy Wuxia use the Phoenix bloodline when I saw her, but now it seems that without my help, she will only be able to use it after 1,000 years. Putting aside the fact that Xiaohua had waited for the four-spirit blood curse to completely escape from the void before he took action to break the array, the Dawn Rain continent's aura alone was so vast that not only did it obliterate the Sky Patrol City's sword array, but it also spread to the surroundings of the Sky Patrol City. Wherever the aura passed, there would be explosive sounds and the heaven and earth would shake unceasingly. In particular, under the Four Spirits' blood curse, the four huge abysses that previously hid the four spirits' celestial bodies were now exuding a faint black gas. The black gas did not rush out of the ground, but entangled on the surface like spiritual snakes. Within the abysses, more faint black gas spread rapidly in the direction of the sword tomb along with the aura and fluctuations of the blood curse. As for the depths of the sword tomb, there was an inexplicable space that was shrouded by the faint black gas. On the surface of the space, countless black gas were like countless tentacles that reached into the earth and covered thousands of miles. The black gas of Sky Patrol City was just a few wisps of this black gas. The huge fluctuations had weakened by the time they reached the space, but the fluctuations still shook the black gas like seaweed swaying in the silent undercurrents of the sea. As the ripples spread into the space, a somewhat obscure voice sounded from deep within the space. Immediately, the black chi in the entire space began to ripple, forming numerous tiny whirlpools all over the place. The black chi fell into the whirlpools and slowly disappeared. Tiny ripples were formed in the space. Following the ripples, a human-shaped figure that was dozens of feet in size was revealed. In the beginning, the outline was just a few lines. The thickness of the lines was uneven, but they were all pitch black, as if they were drawn with ink. As for the vortexes, they were all over the two ends of the lines. After a while, sizzling sounds came from these lines. The pitch-black lines on the lines were like drops of ink dripping into clear water. They began to spread within the outline, and a faint human body appeared as if ink had been splashed onto it. It seemed very slow, but in fact it was extremely fast. A faint human figure seemed to have crossed the void and appeared in the space. The human figure's body was covered in black chi, and his face could not be seen. As the black chi took shape, it gradually condensed on the surface of the human figure, turning into a pitch-black Confucian robe and a Confucian crown. The little thing from the immortal world has really made a move. The voice sounded very hoarse, but it was obviously the language of a Confucian cultivator from the hidden immortal continent. Following this voice, a Confucian cultivator wearing a Confucian crown and Confucian robe slowly stood up and looked in the direction of Sky Patrol City. It seems that this old man's plans over the years have not been in vain. Unfortunately, this mortal world is really small, and the strength of the Taoist cultivators is also weak. Even if this old man uses the secret method to condense the essence of all the humans, it won't be of much use. I don't know where that drop of essence blood came from. If I can get some more, that would be wonderful. Forget it, no matter what, this is an opportunity for this old man. After saying that, the Confucian cultivator lifted his leg and stepped out of the space. Then his whole body began to distort, turning into a light shadow that flew towards Sky Patrol City. As for the space behind the Confucian cultivator, it was once again filled with black chi. This Confucian cultivator was naturally the body that was shrouded in black and blood, when Xiaohua was undergoing his lightning tribulation in the sword tomb. That body had not moved for many years and had not changed at all. Why would there be such a big change in less than 1,000 years? It was probably related to some of the blood that dripped down from Xiaohua's lightning tribulation. Of course, Xiaohua did not know that a life-and-death enemy had suddenly appeared in the depths of the earth. At this time, he was waiting for the four spirits' blood curse to completely stabilize. Xiaohua did not know, but the Void Heaven Sword School's Qin Jing and the Earth Spirit Sect's Vice Sect Master Yang Ji, who were besieging the Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate's disciples, were even more clueless. Not only were they clueless, but they were also very annoyed and surprised. Originally, The development of the matter was as they had discussed. They had used the sword formation to hide in the void, avoiding the eyes and ears of Zhong Haoran and the rest of the Dawn Rain Mainland's Fortune Gate's disciples. Only after the large group of Fortune Gate's disciples had flown past did they emerge from the sword formation. Looking at the Fortune Gate's disciples in the distance, it was as if they were watching a fat lamb falling into a trap. When the Dawn Rain Mainland's Fortune Gate's disciples launched their attack, they too split into 3 groups, surrounding Zhong Haoran's group from the east, west, and south sides, and launched their own attacks. In the end, when the Dawn Rain Mainland's Fortune Gate's disciples realized that they were surrounded and turned around to attack, it was not out of their expectations. On the contrary, when the Mountain Patrol Sword Gate, Soaring Feather Gate, and Quilted Mountain Sect finally came out in full force, Qin Jing and the others' eyes lit up. They did not expect Yi Guxing to have such courage. However, this was not a big deal. Just as Yi Guxing had said, what they wanted was to control the Heavenly Patrol City and the Fortune Gate's forces. They would not attack the Heavenly Patrol City. Therefore, everything developed according to Yi Yaotian, Qin Jing, and the others' plan. Qin Jing and Yang Ji had even ordered the Void Heaven Sword School and Earth Spirit Sect's disciples to surround the Fortune Gate's disciples and not kill them. These Fortune Gate's disciples were their prey, the foundation for their future expansion. The Fortune Gate disciples' strength was not high, but their aptitude was good. This was the consensus of all sword and Dao cultivators. However, everything changed after the birth of the thunderbolts between heaven and earth. When the lightning appeared behind them, Qin Jing and Yang Ji were stunned at first. After all, the Heaven Patrol City was located in the snow region, where lightning was rare. When they turned their heads to look, they saw lightning covering the land. They immediately realized that something was wrong. However, the Fortune Gate disciples from the Dawn Rain continent had already begun to attack. They could not care less. Other than leaving some disciples to keep watch, the others formed a sword formation and prepared to attack the Fortune Gate disciples from the Dawn Rain continent. They wanted to end the matter with the Fortune Gate disciples as soon as possible, so that they could focus on the situation. Their plan was extremely good, but they had underestimated the strength of a true Fortune Gate disciple. After the thunderstorm passed, the Fortune Gate's disciples, led by Xiong Yi and Li Xiang, quickly arrived behind Qin Jing and Yang Ji. Xiao Hua's divine sense and figure that flashed by scared the two of them, as well as the sword cultivators and Earth Spirit Sect's disciples, to the point that they almost pissed their pants. The two did not dare to be negligent. They no longer cared about the Fortune Gate disciples from the Dawn Rain continent, and turned to face the Real Fortune Gate disciples. After the battle, the two were scared out of their wits. Although the Real Fortune Gate disciples did not appear to be many in number, each of them was equal to 10. Their formations were especially powerful. In just a short while, hundreds of sword cultivators had already fallen. Damn it! Qin Jing cursed as he blocked an attack from a nascent soul cultivator. Just as he was about to attack a Golden Core disciple who had revealed an opening, the Golden Core disciple's figure flickered and disappeared. Another Golden Core disciple faced Qin Jing. Although Qin Jing sent this Golden Core disciple flying, he did not succeed. He could not help but shout, "Who are you? How dare you surround my Void Heaven Sword School's sword cultivators? I'm a Fortune Gate disciple." The nascent soul cultivator did not hide anything. As he spoke, he waved his hand and the space around Qin Jing was sealed. Qin Jing opened his mouth and a small sword shattered the seal. Qin Jing angrily said, "Were you sent by Zhong Haoran to make fun of us? How can there be a nascent soul master like you in the Fortune Gate?" Who would have thought that the nascent soul cultivator would completely ignore Qin Jing? His figure flickered and he flew several hundred feet away. He waved his hand and saved a Foundation Establishment disciple, who was about to be killed by an Earth Spirit Sect disciple. Damn it! Seeing that the nascent soul cultivator had left without any hesitation, Qin Jing cursed angrily. Just as he was about to kill the other Golden Core disciple, a familiar sound of a sword rang out. Qin Jing hurriedly raised his head and looked over. Wasn't it Zhuo Ming of the High Wind Sword Sect, and Zhuo Lingjian flying over from afar? Great! Qin Jing was overjoyed. However, before he could smile, Yuanya had already blocked in front of Zhuo Ming's head with his devil's spear. Clang! Without giving Zhuo Ming a chance to speak, Yuanya casually pointed his spear at Zhuo Ming's left arm that had transformed into a sword. In Qin Jing's eyes, Zhuo Ming seemed to be trying his best to dodge or even escape. However, no matter how hard Zhuo Ming tried, he couldn't dodge the spear. Pung! After the golden hum, there was a muffled sound. Qin Jing clearly saw that Zhuo Ming's left arm had exploded. Zhuo Ming's figure staggered as he tried to escape. However, he only flew a few hundred feet before Yuanya mysteriously blocked in front of his head. Yuanya's devil weapon was aimed at Zhuo Ming's forehead, forcing Zhuo Ming to not even dare to move. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, gift it, and thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wu Qing, Aluan, Jeshen, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonic Flower, Shenren Xiao, Little Jianjian, Thebluski 1, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 8547985, etc. In addition, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherishes it. Chapter 5193. Qin Jing was terrified as he watched. His body swayed, and he almost fell from the sky. Who was Zhuo Ming? A spiritual sword. How many spiritual swords could there be in the entire Huan country? How could he be injured by an unknown cultivator's spear and forced to surrender? What's going on? Qin Jing was upset and did not know what to do. However, Qin Jing's troubles did not stop there. Just as he was about to find Yang Ji to discuss, he heard a deep voice in the distance. Junior Xianjing leads the Kunlun sect disciples to support Senior. I'm late, please forgive me. What? Did I hear wrongly? Xianjing? Isn't he the sect leader of the Kunlun sect? When did he become a junior? Whose junior is he? Qin Jing was stunned. He stood in the air at a loss and stared blankly at the distant sky above the snowfield. Thousands of Kunlun sect disciples rushed over on flying boats. Wasn't that the sect leader of the Kunlun sect, Xianjing? A light suddenly appeared in Qin Jing's mind. He cried out, yes, it's him. That spiritual sense just now. Qin Jing seemed to have seen the truth of the matter. But even if he understood, what was the use? Immediately after, behind Xianjing's Kunlun sect, for terrified voices sounded again. Junior Yang Yu brings the Shanghua sect disciples to support Senior. Please forgive me. Junior Yi Xian of the Xuanyan sect, temporarily acting as the sect leader. Today, I bring the Xuanyan sect disciples to support Senior. Please forgive me. Junior Wu Hongzi of the Qiqiao sect brings the disciples to support Senior in Sky Patrol City. Junior Zhenren Jing Huan is the sect leader of the Huanhua sect. Junior did not manage the sect well, and caused trouble for Senior. Today, I bring the disciples to ask for forgiveness. Shanghua sect's sect leader, Zhenren Yangyu? Xuanyan sect's sect leader, Zhenren Yixian? Qiqiao sect's sect leader, Wu Hongzi? Huanhua sect's Zhenren Jing Huan? Qin Jing could not believe his ears. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. His face was ashen. A voice roared in his heart. I must have heard wrongly. How could they be here? This is not a sword Dao battle. Moreover, I seem to have heard from Yi Yaotian that the Vice Alliance Master of the Immortal Alliance, Luo Xingtian, seems to be making some moves in the state of Xi. The four great sects of the state of Xi are all there. However, at this moment, another voice came from the southeast corner in the distance. The various sects of Meng have led their disciples to support Senior. Junior Daoist Yuqing of the Taiqing sect greets Daoist Xiao from afar. Changbai sect's Yun Mingzi led his disciples to pay respects to Daoist Master Xiao. Reverend Li Feng of the Immortal Ascension sect pays his respects to Reverend Xiao. When this voice fell into Qin Jing's ears, it was as if Qin Jing had lost his parents. He stood in midair in a daze. How could he still be in the mood to fight? Seeing Qin Jing's reaction, the Void Heaven Sword School's disciples withdrew their sword chi in fear. They were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered as they stared at the Fortune Gate's disciples, not daring to resist. Then in another direction, Zhang Qingxiao's voice also sounded. Zhang Qingxiao of the Heavenly Devil sect has led the disciples of the Heavenly Devil 13 sects to reinforce Taoist Master Xiao. Oh my God! The Heavenly Devil sect's disciples turned pale with fright. They cried out inwardly. Why is Sect Chief Zhang also here? Umph. In the distance, Xiongyi coldly snorted. You dare to scheme against my Fortune Gate's disciples? In this old man's opinion, you should all be killed. However, my sect master is the most benevolent. He has already said that regardless of whether it is a sword Dao cultivator or a Dao cultivator, they are all human cultivators. As long as you surrender and join my Fortune Gate, you will be spared from death. Why don't you wait here and make your choice? As for the Heavenly Devil sect's disciples, wait here. We are willing to join the Fortune Gate. Before Xiongyi could finish, a voice shouted. Then, Qin Jing saw the surrounding disciples surrender one after another. A sword Dao battle? The Sky Patrol City's disciples naturally heard that the Shi country and Ming country's sect masters had led their disciples here. They were shocked and did not dare to be negligent. They abandoned the Fortune Gate's disciples and hurriedly retreated to the Sky Patrol City. The Dawn Rain Continent's Fortune Gate's disciples were the most confused. They had just escaped death, and each of them was pleasantly surprised. Looking at the fleeing Sky Patrol City's sword cultivators, the Void Heaven Sword School's disciples who had surrendered, and the unfamiliar Fortune Gate's disciples, they did not know what to do. Xiang Zhili looked at the Fortune Gate's disciples and laughed. Sect Master Zhang, it's time for you to come out. Sect Master Xiong and Sect Master Li won't have much time to pacify these disciples. Yes, Junior will listen to Senior's instructions. Zhong Haoran, Zhong Zhan and Fei Yunshu replied. Then Xiang Zhili led Zhong Haoran to the east side of the Sky Patrol City. Wu Qing led Zhong Zhan to the south side. And Cui Yingying led Fei Yunshu to the west side. The myriad Thunder Valley's three heroes had just started to move when they heard a thunderous rumble in the sky above the north side of the Sky Patrol City. A 1,000-meter-tall thunder avatar appeared in the bright sun. Xiaohua looked around like a thunder god and said in a loud voice, Many thanks for coming to help. The battle between my Fortune Gate and the Sky Patrol City has come to an end. You don't need to get involved. After this Xiao has dealt with the matters here, there are some important matters to discuss with you. Please wait here for a moment. Xiaohua did not release his pressure, nor did he show off his divine ability, but this simple thunder avatar confirmed all the rumors on the Dawn Rain continent. The various sect masters were shocked and hurriedly issued the sect master's order. After ordering their disciples to stop, they bowed in unison and said, Yes, Junior understands. After instructing the heads of the various sects, Xiaohua withdrew his Thunder Dharma body, and once again entered the Four Spirits' blood curse. He looked at the blood formation that had already stabilized, took a deep breath, and formed a seal with his hands. A bright silver light appeared on his arms, and the celestial art that was similar to a mortal emissary whence had been formed. Kaya. Before Xiaohua's first seal was formed, there were signs of thunder tribulation in the sky. The nearby cultivators' hearts trembled, as if they saw the end of the world. Fellow Taoist. Fengwu could not help but remind. This array is very powerful, don't try to show off. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at Fairy Hong Xia's sleeping eyebrows in the ice phoenix crystal. He did not answer, but waved his hands together. Shua. Two phantoms appeared and the nearby void collapsed rapidly. Layers of bright silver light rushed towards the ice phoenix crystal like swimming fish. At this moment, under the Four Spirits' blood curse, a vague black shadow quietly emerged from an abyss. When he saw the dazzling silver light, he hurriedly retreated. When the black shadow condensed into the figure of a Confucian cultivator in the abyss, the Confucian cultivator secretly frowned again. My goodness, why did an immortal from the immortal realm suddenly appear on the Dawn Rain continent? My strength has not recovered yet. How can I be his opponent? Let's wait and see. Then, the Confucian cultivator's body exploded again, turning into thousands of black gas that surged to the ground. Some fell under the Four Spirits' blood curse, some seeped into other places, but most of them happily pounced on the place where the previous battle took place, happily absorbing the blood qi and devouring the wandering souls. Xiaohua was fully focused on saving Fairy Hong Xia, and did not notice the abnormality of the black gas. When he saw the bright silver light of the immortal seal touching the ice phoenix crystal, Xiaohua raised his hand and was about to point at the sword gourd. But when he saw that his right arm had turned bright silver, he hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Taoist Fengwu, quickly lend me a hand." "No problem," Fengwu whispered, opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of demonic qi into the sword gourd. The spirit-slaying vital light in the sword gourd shone brightly. Wung wung. In the trembling sound, the spirit-slaying vital light nailed the void and a bloody light reversed back to the ice phoenix crystal. The moment the bloody light touched the crystal, the immortal seal also fell into the ice phoenix dharma body. Shwa. With a soft sound, the crystal melted rapidly and fell into the ice phoenix dharma body and Fairy Hong Xia's bloodline like snow water. TSKTSE. The Confucian cultivator's primordial spirit, hidden in the dark, could not help but make a sound, as if he was extremely envious. This is the essence of thousands of bloodlines that have been purified by the four spirits' blood curse. This little girl seems to have the bloodline of the Phoenix clan, and was originally an innate spirit body. After obtaining this bloodline, her blood qi and blood far surpass that of ordinary people. If she had a secret technique to condense essence qi, refining a few primordial spirit doppelgangers would be child's play. What a pity, Io. Suddenly, the Confucian cultivator's primordial spirit was even more shocked. Who is this immortal? He dares to use a forbidden technique? No, he is not an immortal, but a Taoist cultivator who is about to undergo a tribulation. My luck has come. The only thing that could shock the Confucian cultivator's primordial spirit was naturally Xiaohua's soul technique. Seeing the essence of the bloodline fall into the ice phoenix dharma body and Fairy Hongxia's body, the ice phoenix dharma body turned blood red and became more transparent. Fairy Hongxia was also shrouded in a bloody mist. Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then opened his mouth. Green seal text poured out, and with the chanting of ghosts and gods, thousands of wisps of dark green light fell into the ice phoenix dharma body and Fairy Hongxia's bloodline. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the bloody mist around Fairy Hongxia's body entered her body. The ice phoenix dharma body also gradually shrank, and finally entered Fairy Hongxia's bloodline. However, after waiting for a while, Fairy Hongxia's eyes were still tightly shut, and she did not wake up. Xiaohua, on the other hand, was very confident. He slowly flew in front of Fairy Hongxia and lovingly looked at her snowy face, dark eyebrows, and that unchanging red mole at the corner of her mouth. Then he slowly raised his hand and slowly touched the space between her eyebrows. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wuqing, Aluan, Jeshan, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 854, 7985 and so on. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherishes it. Chapter 5194. Oh, where Xiaohua's finger landed. A strand of hair-like crystal light landed on Fairy Hongxia's jade-like forehead. Fairy Hongxia groaned and opened her eyes. Seeing Xiaohua's unforgettable appearance reflected in her starry eyes, a sweet smile appeared on her enchanting lips. Fairy Hongxia was not surprised at all. She whispered, "Xiaohua, you're back?" With that, Fairy Hongxia raised her arms and hugged Xiaohua. She pressed her face against Xiaohua's chest and closed her eyes in bliss. Xiaohua's eyes were moist. He already understood that Fairy Hongxia did not have any change of heart. In the past 1,000 years, she had dreamt of his return more than once. It was as if she imagined hugging him like this every time. So when she suddenly saw him, she thought that it was still a dream. Therefore, she did not have any doubts and hugged him like before. Xiaohua's heart melted. Gentleness was a hero's grave. Facing such gentleness, how could Xiaohua still have any heroic spirit? He could not help but wrap his arms around Fairy Hongxia, wanting to hug her too. However, his heart skipped a beat. He immediately waved his finger, and a boundary appeared to protect his left side. As expected by Xiaohua, Fairy Hongxia closed her eyes, raised her neck, and kissed his lips again. Xiaohua lowered his head and gently touched the trembling and moist area. He touched the fresh and jade-like lilac. Ah! It was just a touch, but the familiar scent, the familiar feeling, the familiar passion, and the familiar action immediately woke Fairy Hongxia up. She let out a soft cry and opened her eyes. Her phoenix eyes narrowed as she shouted, "Who is it?" Before she could finish her words, Xiaohua covered her mouth again. Xiaohua's voice was a little muffled. "Of course it's your husband." You. Fairy Hongxia responded a few times. Her whole body was weak. 2 lines of tears flowed from the corner of her eyes. Lilac also enthusiastically welcomed it. However, in just a moment, Fairy Hongxia suddenly opened her mouth and fiercely bit Xiaohua's lips. Ouch! Xiaohua might not be in pain, but he still pretended to cry out. "Why did you bite me?" "Damn it!" Fairy Hongxia fiercely pinched Xiaohua's armpit again and asked, "For the past 700 years, where have you been hiding? Why can't I find you?" Xiaohua was a little embarrassed. Just as he was about to speak, Fairy Hongxia suddenly burst into tears again. Ooh! She threw herself into Xiaohua's arms and cried, "Xiaohua, where the hell did you go? Do you know how much I missed you?" Don't cry, don't cry." Xiaohua hugged Fairy Hongxia and stroked her long hair. Smelling the familiar scent, he said, "Isn't your husband back now? In the future, we will never separate again." Woo-woo. Fairy Hongxia did not reply. She only cried in Xiaohua's embrace. However, in just a moment, Fairy Hongxia suddenly came to her senses and hurriedly escaped from Xiaohua's embrace. She raised her head and looked around. Unfortunately, the space had already been sealed by Xiaohua. Other than the two of them, Fairy Hongxia could not see anyone else. Where did this come from? Fairy Hongxia was baffled. This concubine remembers that we seem to have fallen into Yi Shixiang's ambush. Yes, that's right. Xiaohua nodded. Previously, Yi Shixiang used you as bait to lure the Fortune Gate's disciples to Sky Patrol City. Furthermore, Yutong wanted to use your bloodline as the foundation to forge the 4 sacred spirit body. Then, Fairy Hongxia was even more puzzled and asked, "What about them? What about Xiao Mao? What about my Kai family's disciples?" "Yutong and Yi Shixiang have already been killed by me," Xiaohua said indifferently. "The Kai family's disciples are also dead. Xiao Mao also fell into the 4 spirits' blood curse like you. At this time he also has an opportunity. However, he is more troublesome. I will save you first, then save him." You. Fairy Hongxia looked at her husband in disbelief and asked curiously, "You can actually kill Yi Shixiang and Yutong?" "Yes." Xiaohua smiled. "The current me is not the same as before. You will understand in a while." Fairy Hongxia smiled and pointed at Xiaohua's forehead. "Then this concubine will see what divine ability husband has to save Xiao Mao." "Divine ability or not, I don't know," Xiaohua said seriously. "This husband only knows that without my wife's kiss, this husband will not be able to test out any divine ability." Fairy Hongxia raised her neck and slanted her eyes at Xiaohua. Then she leaned over and lightly kissed Xiaohua's lips. "It won't be too late to reward you after you save Xiao Mao." "Yes, my wife, I will definitely do my best." Xiaohua smiled happily. With a wave of his hand, he removed the barrier. Fairy Hongxia felt a flash in front of her, and 3 huge crystals appeared. Moreover, Feng Wu and Huang Tong were beside them, and even Yi Yin and the rest were in the distance. She could not help but be shocked. "Ah!" she exclaimed softly, and her face turned red. However, without waiting for her to lower her head, Xiaohua held her soft hand and pointed at where Huang Tong was and said, "Take a look, who is that person?" "Oh." Fairy Hongxia was a little embarrassed and did not dare to look. In her hurry, she did not see Li Zongbao and Kai Wuxia. At this moment, when she heard Xiaohua's words, she rebuked, "Since you are a cultivator that I know, why did you set up that barrier?" "Hee, this person can't wait for us to stay in there longer," Xiaohua said with a smile. "Take a look and you will know." "Who is it?" Fairy Hongxia raised her head and looked in that direction. She even said, "Why are you being so secretive?" However, when Fairy Hongxia saw Wuxia, she was stunned. She was even more shocked than when she saw Xiaohua. She hurriedly rubbed her eyes and opened them again. Indeed, the living Wuxia flew over with tears streaming down her face. "Go quickly." Xiaohua let go and said, "That is really Wuxia." But Fairy Hongxia did not dare to believe that Wuxia had come back to life. However, her innate kinship pushed her, and she flew over without a care for anything else. Hongxia. The familiar voice and the face that was engraved in her memory caused Fairy Hongxia to cry again. "Sister." The two sisters hugged each other and cried bitterly. "Wuxia junior sister." Li Zongbao's voice sounded in their ears. "Junior brother Xiao still has to save the others. Let's go to the side first." And Wuxia was already mentally prepared. At this moment, she choked with sobs as she pulled Fairy Hongxia's hand and followed Li Zongbao to Huang Tong's side. Fairy Hongxia naturally did not care about Xiaohua saving people. Instead, she held Wuxia's warm hand and asked, "Sister, I remember you. Your body was already cold at that time. How could you still be alive? Could it be?" Fairy Hongxia looked at Li Zongbao with some envy and said, "Senior brother Li really found an elixir for you. How can there be any elixir in this world?" Wuxia stopped crying and replied, "If not for your husband, even if Zongbao searched for another 1,000 or 10,000 years, I would not be able to live." "Ah, him? Xiaohua?" Fairy Hongxia was stunned and asked curiously, "How could he have such a divine ability? He is not the original Xiaohua." Wuxia said meaningfully, "He is now Daoist Xiao, the one and only Daoist Xiao in the world. Sister and Zongbao may not understand his divine ability, but you have to remember Sister was really revived by him. That's not possible, right?" Fairy Hongxia could not believe it and whispered to Wuxia, "If you don't believe me, look." Wuxia looked into the distance and said, "This kind of divine ability, who in the entire Dawn Rain continent can have it?" At this moment, Xiaohua was sending Huang Mingxiang's vermilion bird celestial body into his body. Then he raised his hand and a crystal light flashed from his finger and fell between Huang Mingxiang's eyebrows. Xiaohua seemed to feel something and turned to look at Fairy Hongxia with a smile on his face. He nodded at Fairy Hongxia, telling her not to worry. Unexpectedly, just as Xiaohua turned his face, Huang Mingxiang woke up. He was as enthusiastic and wild as he was at Tianmen Mountain. When Huang Mingxiang saw Xiaohua, he said in ecstasy, "So it's big brother Xiao. Thank you so much, you saved me again." As she spoke, Huang Mingxiang stretched out her hand and hugged Xiaohua's neck with her jade arms. Her red lips lightly raised as she kissed Xiaohua's face. Of course, when Huang Mingxiang kissed his cheek, Xiaohua had already noticed that the golden light on his face had blocked Huang Mingxiang's red lips. Unfortunately, Fairy Hongxia did not release her divine sense, so how could she tell? And Huang Mingxiang's words confirmed Fairy Hongxia's suspicions. How could she not know that the person in Huang Mingxiang's heart was Xiaohua? And Xiaohua and this Huang Mingxiang had something that she did not know about. Happened. "Of course I believe you." Fairy Hongxia's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. She said faintly, "I saw it all." Seeing Fairy Hongxia's expression, Xiaohua knew that things weren't going well. Golden light surged around his body as he slowly pushed Huang Mingxiang away. He said in a low voice, "Io, my little grandaunt, can't you stop causing trouble?" Huang Mingxiang pouted and looked at Fairy Hongxia in the distance. "Brother Xiao, what trouble did I cause? I like you. Is there anything wrong with that? Although Fairy Hongxia is your Dao companion, you did not hold a dual cultivation ceremony. I still have the possibility of becoming your Dao companion. Besides, even if you two become Dao companions, can't you have another Dao companion? P.S. Fellow Daoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, save it, tip it. Thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Qinfangliang, Wuqing, Aluan, Jeshan, Lishao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 854, 7985, etc. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherishes it. Chapter 5195. While speaking, Huang Mingxiang even winked at Xiaohua with a "you know what I mean" look. Xiaohua was extremely speechless. "Ioyo, that's right." Huang Mingxiang seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said. Previously, the young master of the Yi family, Yi Shixiang, even proposed to Fairy Hongxia, and Fairy Hongxia almost agreed. If it was me, I would definitely not agree. Yi Shixiang and Yu Tong have already been killed by me, Xiaohua said faintly. There's no need to mention this again. Ah. Huang Mingxiang was shocked and hurriedly said. You actually killed them all? My goodness, Brother Xiao, you're actually so powerful now. I'm so happy. Brother Xiao, you're my great hero. I'll only marry you in this life. Xiaohua was really helpless when he heard this. He was extremely regretful now. He wanted to set up a restriction to block Huang Mingxiang's words and everything that happened. However, he also understood that doing this now was just drawing legs on a snake. If Fairy Hongxia knew about this, it would only add to her troubles. Xiaohua looked at Fairy Hongxia in the distance, and a bitter smile appeared on his face, hoping that Fairy Hongxia could see it. Unfortunately, Fairy Hongxia's mouth twitched and turned to whisper to Kai Wuxia as if she couldn't see him. She was obviously angry. Huang Mingxiang. Xiaohua turned to Huang Mingxiang and said, I'll tell you again. Brother Xiao, what do you want to say? Just say it, I'm listening. Huang Mingxiang supported his cheeks with both hands and looked at Xiaohua with watery eyes filled with worship and infatuation. He muttered as if he was sleepwalking. Xiaohua opened his mouth and simply waved his hand. Forget it, I won't say anything. I think you already know what I want to say. And then, Huang Mingxiang nodded his head like a chick pecking rice and replied, Don't worry, Brother Xiao, I'll listen to you. I won't say anything else and will just watch you quietly from the side. Go. Xiaohua waved his hand and sent Huang Mingxiang to Feng Wu's side. Just don't cause trouble for I. Of course, how can I cause trouble for Brother Xiao? Huang Mingxiang was more well-behaved than any other deer. It stood obediently in the air, lowered its voice as if to demonstrate its power, and replied gently. As it spoke, it did not forget to glance at Fairy Hongxia a few times. At this moment, Xiaohua could no longer care about Huang Mingxiang and Fairy Hongxia, because the 4 crystals of the 4-spirit blood curse were the 4 places where yin and yang were balanced. According to the arrangement of the jade system, the 4 crystals would give birth to the 4 saint spirit body. Right now, Xiaohua's reversal of the 4 saint spiritual bodies was equivalent to reversing the universe. The difficulty was not ordinary. Previously, Xiaohua had used the spirit extermination vital light to freeze the 4 spirits' blood curse. More importantly, he had temporarily maintained the yin-yang formation formed by the 4 crystals, ensuring that Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mingxiang, and Xiao Mao would not be harmed. Now that Xiaohua had rescued Fairy Hongxia, one of the 4 crystals was gone. Although Fairy Hongxia and Huang Mingxiang's side was slightly tilted, they were still able to maintain their balance. When Huang Mingxiang was rescued, half of the 4 spirits' blood curse was gone. At the same time, the blood curse was collapsing rapidly in midair, and at the same time, an indescribable wave of energy was crazily attacking the other 2 crystals. As for the spirit extermination vital light that had pinned down the 4 spirits' blood curse, it was also trembling violently. Pieces of shattered light mixed with the black and white light screen also scattered in all directions. Waves of roar, like the roar of a bull, came from the void. Wherever the light screen passed, the 2 crystals would lose their brilliance as if their colors had faded. The Yun Xiaoying and Yu Xisong that were originally sealed in the crystals also gradually disappeared. Damn it! Xiaohua cursed under his breath, and hurriedly raised his hands. His arms, which were already shining with a silver light, instantly expanded and flew across the sky to land on the 2 crystals. Rumble! The moment the silver light appeared, countless lightning bolts came from the sky, from the void, and fell towards Xiaohua. At the same time, an ascending force surged out from Xiaohua's left side like a spring. Not only that, An unparalleled aura that was similar to an oppressive pressure was emitted from Xiaohua's body, rushing in all directions like a tidal wave. Whether it was Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang, or the rest, they were unable to stand firm in the face of this aura. Their bodies trembled, and fear appeared in their eyes. Go! Huang Tong and Feng Wu looked at each other, and Xiaohua's roar came from the bottom of their hearts. The two clones did not dare to delay, and with a wave of their sharp claws, they brought everyone to fly into the distance. Although they flew quickly, they were still not as fast as the immortal spiritual aura. Fairy Hongxia and the rest were like mortals drowning in a river, surrounded by terror. If Fairy Hongxia and the rest were like this, how could the Fortune Gate disciples, Sky Patrol City's sword cultivators, and the disciples of the cultivation world's three great paths be any better? One by one, they could not even summon their true qi and true essence, and fell onto the snowy plains, looking at the godlike Xiaohua in horror. Pooh! Xiaohua controlled the two crystals, opened his mouth, and sent a mouthful of true qi into the sword gourd. Woo-woo! The sword gourd let out a trembling sound, and the spirit execution vital light shone brightly. Ka-ka-ka. Waves of cracking sounds came from the void, as if the place where the spirit execution vital light was targeting was unable to support the collapsing four spirits blood curse. Looking at the other side of the collapsing four spirits blood curse, cracks as thick as a child's arm appeared along with the lightning bolts. Right at this moment, seeing the inside of the four spirits blood curse being annihilated, Xiaohua clenched his teeth and secretly shouted in his heart. Borrowing the ascending force of the nearby void, he waved his right hand. Rumble! A huge rumbling sound was produced from the silver tiger crystal. Under Xiaohua's strength, the huge crystal trembled and moved, with Xiaohua's current divine ability, not to mention a crystal, even if it was a mountain, if Xiaohua wanted to move it, he could do it with a wave of his arm. However, this four spirits blood curse was created by Yu Tong with reference to the immortal world's immortal array, and the blood curse claimed to be one. If Xiaohua wanted to reverse the blood curse to move this crystal, it would be even more difficult than moving a mountain. Moreover, Xiaohua also had to consider the life and death of Xiao Mao and Hamba inside the crystal, so he was even more cautious. Seeing that the crystal had only moved a few zhang, its speed began to slow down again. The two crystals produced a suction force, and the other side of the collapsing four spirits blood curse gave birth to a strong pushing force, preventing the crystal from moving. Damn it! Xiaohua understood that this was the natural rejection of yin and yang. If he wanted to reverse yin and yang, he had to take out a divine ability that surpassed the laws of this realm. He raised his head to look at the tribulation clouds, then looked at the nearby thunderbolts and immortal spiritual energy, and couldn't help but curse. If I forcefully activate my immortal spiritual energy, I might be able to send this crystal to the other side of the four spirits blood curse. But the immortal spiritual energy in my body will definitely be activated to an extreme degree, and my ascension will be unavoidable. However, if I don't move the crystal, the entire four spirits blood curse will be destroyed in a moment, and these two crystals will also be destroyed. Not to mention Xiao Mao and Hamba surviving. Even their souls won't be able to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Thinking up to here, Xiaohua hesitated. After all, there were only Xiao Mao and Hamba inside the crystal, and there were billions of living beings in the three continents. This simple comparison was easy for him to make a judgment. Let's activate the lightning escape first. Xiaohua didn't dare to use the immortal technique again, and while retracting his immortal spiritual energy he pondered. If the lightning escape doesn't work, then I'll try to put the four spirits blood curse into the space. Of course, when Xiaohua released his divine sense earlier, he already knew that the four spirits blood curse was an independent entity, and he couldn't activate it even if he used the immortal technique. Now even if he released his divine sense and mind, it wouldn't be easy to put this crystal into the space. Rumble! Xiaohua's body moved at will, the lightning around his body flourished, and he activated the lightning escape with all his might. He abandoned the flame dragon crystal, and placed both his arms on the silver tiger crystal, pushing the crystal towards the other side of the four spirits blood curse. Amidst the lightning, that seemingly thin body actually became blurry, and the crystal that had already started to slow down accelerated once again. In the end, a multicolored ball of light gradually appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua was clear in his heart. His lightning escape had activated the light escape, and the crystal in front of him might not be able to stop his light escape. In other words, he might not be able to push the crystal anymore, and he would pass through the crystal and enter the other side of the crystal. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent, and hastily retracted his magic power, carefully maintaining the edge of the light escape. After a long time seemed to have already become imperceptible at the edge of the light escape. Xiaohua's arms sank, and the crystal encountered an indestructible barrier, unable to move forward even half an inch. Moreover, an even stronger suction force behind Xiaohua was like a giant hand of heaven and earth that grasped the crystal, trying its best to snatch the crystal away from Xiaohua's hands. Xiaohua understood that this was the most crucial moment. He had already pushed the crystal to the point where yin and yang intersected. The crystal only needed to cross this barrier, and the broken Four Spirits blood curse would definitely be balanced again. Not only would Xiao Mao and Hamba's lives be unharmed, they would even be able to absorb the bloodline power within the crystal, which would be extremely beneficial to their cultivation. Rumble! Xiaohua once again activated his magic power, and where the lightning passed, Xiaohua's figure disappeared by more than half. Xiaohua hurriedly emptied his hands, and both his arms entered the crystal. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed, and hastily retracted his magic power. That disappeared figure reappeared, and both his arms also withdrew from the crystal. What should I do? Xiaohua was somewhat in a predicament, and he inwardly pondered. Previously, if it wasn't for my apprehension that Feng Wu and Huang Tong would trigger the Four Spirits blood curse, I should have let them make a move together with me. Thunder Immortal is the most suitable, but he is also sacrificial, refining the 5 elements wishful heaven staff in the space, so there is simply no way for him to get out. Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly had a feeling of coming back from the jaws of death, as if he had realized something. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a collection, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benben, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chun Fangliang, Wu Qing, Aluan, Jeshin, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, GUF 8547985, and so on. Today, I will update for you, but some of the names of the people were not completely counted, so I hope everyone can understand. In addition, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the end of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherish it. Chapter 5196. Xiaohua cursed in a low voice. Damn it! How could I forget about the soul-punishing vital light? The reason why the 5 elements wishful sky cudgel can be independent and not enter the 5 elements is because of the closure and perfection of the magnetic force. The reason why the 4 spirits blood curse can be integrated should also be because of the innate attribute of the bloodline power. I have already removed the Ice Phoenix and Vermilion Bird bloodlines, and now the 4 spirits blood curse is only left with the Flame Dragon and Silver Tiger bloodlines. It is naturally difficult for me to force the Flame Dragon and Silver Tiger bloodlines to balance the yin and yang of the 4 spirits blood curse. Why don't I go with the flow and divide these 2 crystals into yin and yang? Then the balance of the 4 spirits blood curse will naturally be achieved. After pondering for a while, Xiaohua felt that his guess was correct. He hastily called out in his heart, Fellow Taoist Feng Wu, quickly activate the spirit-slaying vital light, and send the yin and yang energies within it into these 2 crystals. Easy. Feng Wu and Huang Tong were already anxious. Now that they heard Xiaohua's order, how could Feng Wu dare to be negligent? After answering, she waved her claws, and the power of the stars and moon fell on the sword gourd. Kutta. The soul-punishing vital light retracted, and the point nailed in the void instantly shattered. Ripples of the void shattered rapidly spread out. Shua. The soul-punishing vital light fell on the 2 crystals, and the black and white light curtain also fell. The previous color of the two crystals instantly disappeared. Xiaohua did not dare to fly away, and only retracted his divine ability. Following the annihilation of the lightning tribulation power, he flew beside the crystals that were beginning to fly backward. He was accumulating power and observing at the same time. Once there was a change, he would immediately attack again. The two crystals that had turned into black and white suddenly accelerated, but after reaching a certain extent, their speed began to slow down. Looking at the incomparably chaotic undulations to the left, it was different from what the naked eye could see. When the two crystals started to fly, they started to gradually settle down. It was as if Fairy Hongxia's messy thoughts and the knot in her heart were gradually sorted out as Xiaohua activated his supreme divine ability. Good. Xiaohua was overjoyed when he saw that there was a rhythm to the fluctuations. He waited for the two crystals to slow down before his hands once again shone with a silvery white brilliance. He formed a series of hand seals and waved his arms as he shouted in a low voice, "Form!" Ka. The celestial art landed in the middle of the two crystals, and a void similar to the center of the four spirits' blood curse appeared in the air. The two light curtains above the crystals fell into the void along with the celestial art, and the two huge crystals suddenly stopped in the air. An immortal formation called the two spirits' blood curse was slowly forming. Huff. Xiaohua let out a long breath and jumped out of the formation. He stood in midair and cupped his hands towards Feng Wu. "Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoist." However, Feng Wu shook his head and said, "Fellow Taoist, don't relax. This blood curse formation is only temporarily stable. If it loses the yin and yang energy of the spirit extermination light, these two crystals will still collapse." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. When I was reversing the four spirits' blood curse, I was trying. Now that it has temporarily become yin and yang, and the attribute of one of the crystals has changed, and there is no life inside, I don't have to worry too much. I just need to follow the method of the four spirits' blood curse, and make some changes inside." Huang Tong said with some disdain, "Fellow Taoist, you are too careful. In I's opinion, as long as fellow Taoist comes out and uses his 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper, he would have already destroyed this lifeless crystal." Just as Huang Tong finished speaking, the two crystals indeed shook again, and the void that had just formed in the middle strangely disappeared. Xiaohua looked at the void that had collapsed again, but the nature of the collapse was completely different from before. He narrowed his eyes and said, "I already know from Yu Tong's memories that Xiao Mao, although he did some things that went against his conscience, he did not owe Fairy Hongxia and I anything. He even sacrificed himself to save Fairy Hongxia. So I cannot do anything that will harm Xiao Mao's life." Not only do you want to save Xiao Mao, you also want to give the blood essence of these tens of thousands of human cultivators to him, right? Huang Tong asked in her heart with some displeasure. "Don't forget, what you want to do is more important than saving Xiao Mao." "Haha, if I don't save one person, how can I save the world?" Xiaohua laughed loudly, and his hand formed the celestial spell again. This celestial spell was exactly the same as Yu Tong's. As the celestial spell entered the silver tiger crystal, the crystal began to shake, and rhythmic waves came from all parts of the crystal. Wherever the waves came from, the crystal would turn into crystal grains, and the grains would turn into blood-red crystal dots, and the surface of these blood-red dots would turn black. Go! The last celestial spell was sent out. This celestial spell did not land on the crystal dots, nor did it land on Xiaohua himself, but on the fire dragon crystal. As the celestial spell landed on the fire dragon crystal, thousands of whirlpools appeared on the surface of the fire dragon crystal. The whirlpools originally had a white light screen, but now the light screen condensed into rays of white light that shot into the sky, landing on the thousands of blood-red dots. The moment the black and white lights touched, the blood-red dots gave off a blinding light that rushed into the whirlpool of the fire dragon crystal. Suddenly, Xiaohua's expression changed, and he looked at the ground. He let out a low roar, and his body flew down because he could clearly see that the blood-red dots did not fall into the white light, but instead left the light screen and landed on the ground. "Ha ha!" A slightly hoarse voice laughed and said, as expected of a human Grand Ascension Stage cultivator. You know how to reverse the 4-spirit blood curse. However, even if you help the cultivator inside the blood crystal, so what? In the end, aren't you still a sacrifice for this old man? This voice appeared abruptly and disappeared quickly. When Xiaohua landed on the ground, he released his divine sense, but there was nothing abnormal. The 4 huge holes were like 2 pairs of mocking eyes staring at Xiaohua. Kaka. Huang Tong and Feng Wu's expressions changed greatly, and before they could say anything, they spread their wings and flew to different places. However, only a few breaths later, the 2 avatars flew back, and their eyes were filled with shock. Clearly, they could not believe that they had not discovered anything. How was it? Feng Wu was not as calm as Huang Tong, and seeing Xiaohua fly out of the abyss with a pale face, she hurriedly asked, "Did you find anything?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes, shook his head slightly and said, "I didn't find anything. In addition to some faint demonic qi, there seems to be some sword qi, and more bloodline qi formed by the 4-spirit blood curse. What a pity." Feng Wu looked up at the spirit-slaying vital light that was still nailing the silver tiger crystal, and said, "If there was the spirit-slaying vital light, we might have killed that guy." Huang Tong shook her head and said, "Not necessarily." Boom. Before Huang Tong could finish speaking, in the distant south, thousands of miles away, there was an earth-shaking roar. The sound had weakened a lot by the time it reached here, but the strange fluctuation did not weaken because of the distance. The fluctuation swept across the Sky Patrol City, and a fierce wind was stirred up. After the fierce wind passed, a smoke-like black whirlwind rose from the other side of the snowy plains, and pierced through the heavens and the earth. Xiaohua did not hesitate at all, and his body flashed. He was about to teleport over, but just as he flew out, his body appeared again. He pointed at Fairy Hongxia, and shouted to Yuanya in the distance, "Ya, quickly come over and protect Fairy Hongxia." Yuanya shattered Swimming's left arm, but did not immediately take Swimming's life. He originally wanted to capture Swimming and bring him to Xiaohua, but when he saw Xiaohua use his great powers to break the 4-spirit blood curse, he stopped in midair. Now that there was a change, and Xiaohua's expression changed, how could he not know the urgency of the matter? He agreed, and without asking who Fairy Hongxia was, he left Swimming, and flew in the direction Xiaohua pointed at. Seeing that Yuanya had left, Xiaohua was about to fly, but he was still worried. After thinking for a while, he pulled the black bear spirit out of the space. Without waiting for the black bear spirit to bow, he ordered, "Black bear, quickly follow Yuanya, and help me protect Fairy Hongxia. Oh, and Zhang Qingxiao and the others, Yuanya knows them." Yes. The black bear spirit did not dare to delay, and hurriedly followed Yuanya. To Xiaohua, several thousand kilometers was nothing more than the blink of an eye. However, before he could break free from his teleportation, boom, boom, boom. Another series of explosions rang out from the east, west, and north. The entire earth shook violently, and several layers of ripples appeared along with several streaks of black qi that soared into the sky, enveloping the snowy plains within several tens of thousands of kilometers. Under the impact of the waves, Xiaohua's body was forced out of the void. Xiaohua escaped from the void, and at a glance he saw a pillar of black gas not far away. At this time, the black gas had begun to spread wildly in all directions, but Xiaohua could see clearly that in the middle of the black gas, there was a pillar of punishment that was larger than a mountain. Waves of noble qi forcibly tore through the void, and rushed into it. An aura that was more majestic than the aura of imperial power gradually emanated from the pillar of punishment. An indescribable bright yellow color turned into threads of light that condensed within the black gas. This is a defensive formation? Xiaohua looked at the pillar of punishment in disbelief, and then looked at the pervading black gas, and could not help but cry out in surprise. The black gas was different from ordinary demonic gas, and did not have too much blood stains. Instead, as the noble qi rushed in, it formed a bright yellow color. This bright yellow color had just begun to take shape, and it was hard to see what it looked like. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. Thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wuqing Aluan, Jeshan, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonis, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky One, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 854, 7985, and so on. Also, if there are no accidents, today is the last update before the finale of Divine Cultivation. I hope everyone likes it and cherish it. Chapter 5197. Huang Tong and Feng Wu, who were close to Xiaohua, also came to their senses. Feng Wu exclaimed, "That's right. What that voice just said is the language of the hidden immortal continent's Confucian cultivators. It's different from the Dawn Rain continent." The book immortal who turned into a demon? Xiaohua suddenly thought of something. An incredible idea came from the bottom of his heart. He cried out involuntarily, could it be that the Heavenly Court's book immortal who injured Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu actually fell on the Dawn Rain continent? It can't be so coincidental, right? Feng Wu couldn't help but groan. Huang Tong, on the other hand, recovered from the shock and said lightly, so impossible? Su Ji, Fairy Xingyu, and the book immortal encountered a starburst and fell into the mortal world. Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu were banished to the 3 continents. The 3 continents and the Dawn Rain continent are one, so it's normal for the book immortal to fall on the Dawn Rain continent. But Xiaohua still wanted to say something, but when the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them back down. Facts spoke louder than words. Who else could have the strength to not be detected by his divine ability, and be able to set up such a defensive formation other than the book immortal that Su Ji spoke of? Asterisk boom boom boom. Asterisk at that moment, there were still rumbling sounds coming from the distance. Pillars of punishment that could not be seen with the naked eye appeared in the black smoke and sealed off the world. The bright yellow pillars that could not be seen clearly before had now taken shape. They were torture tools that looked like axes. These torture tools were strung together like chains with inscriptions. They moved horizontally and vertically, slowly sealing off the sky and the earth. The array is about to be sealed. Huang Tong's eyes flashed with a green light, and she whispered, "If we rush out now, we may have a chance to escape." Feng Wu sneered. "Do you think this is an ordinary array? This is the immortal defense array set up by the Heavenly Court's book immortal." "That's right." Xiaohua withdrew his gaze from the pillars and the chains and nodded. "This is the book immortal that even Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu couldn't resist. Even if he was injured, the immortal defense array he set up is not something we can break through at will. Moreover, even if we can break through, can we leave now?" "Ai." Feng Wu sighed heavily. His phoenix eyes looked into the distance, at the dense crowd of Fortune Gate's disciples, as well as many sect chiefs and disciples from the 3 major cultivation countries. He knew very well that Xiaohua would not abandon these humans and leave. The problem is, Huang Tong was confused. Since the book immortal had already set up the immortal defense array, why did he wait until now to activate it? Why did he set up the immortal defense array here? Xiaohua was in a hurry earlier, and didn't have time to transmit the Jade Talisman's memories to Huang Tong and Feng Wu. Now that he heard Huang Tong's words, he transmitted everything he knew to them. Huang Tong instantly understood. He looked at the black gas and then at the crowd. He smiled bitterly and said, "So it's for the blood sacrifice. Not bad." Xiaohua nodded and said, "The book immortal was discovered by Fairy Xingyu because of the blood sacrifice. Now, she has set up the immortal defense array for the blood sacrifice. Don't forget that Sky Patrol City is where the Sword Principal battle will take place. I also participated in the last Sword Principal battle, and I don't know how many human cultivators died near Sky Patrol City. This book immortal must have set up the immortal defense array to wait for the next Sword Principal battle, waiting for more blood and wandering souls." Huang Tong continued, but what he didn't expect was that before the Sword Principal battle, the Fortune Gate's disciples besieged Sky Patrol City. Then, the Huan country's 3 sword sects and the Heavenly Demon sect's 3 sects came. The Fortune Gate's disciples from the 3 major continents came. The sect chiefs of the 3 major cultivation countries also came with their disciples. A battle comparable to the sword principal battle almost broke out. Not to mention, before the battle, there was still an immortal formation to condense the 4 sacred spirit bodies. In that case, Xiaohua thought for a moment, took out the Kunlun mirror, and handed it to Feng Wu. I'll have to trouble you to take my Fortune Gate's disciples and the other sect's disciples into the Kunlun Wonderland. No problem. Feng Wu did not dare to delay. She took the Kunlun mirror and agreed. She spread her wings and tore through the void to fly back. But just as she tore through the void, boom boom boom, chains of Xingming rushed out and blocked Feng Wu's demonic body. The chains landed on Feng Wu's demonic body and made a roaring sound. Although the chains broke when Feng Wu flapped her wings, and the axe-like Xingming was annihilated, the heavy chains had already sealed the void, and Feng Wu was unable to use the space escape technique. Damn it. Xiaohua cursed under his breath, and hurriedly used the thunder escape technique to fly back. Although Feng Wu and Huang Tong followed behind him, Xiaohua could clearly feel that the space was gradually being confined by the immortal defense array. Ha 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 ha. Before Xiaohua could fly back to Sky Patrol City, he heard the laughter from before in the surrounding sky again. Dao Cultivator, you don't have to struggle anymore. When you discovered my tracks, my great array had already been activated. Not to mention you. Even a banished immortal would not be able to escape from this great array. Hearing that the great array had already been completed, Xiaohua felt more at ease. He looked coldly at the sky and asked, 81 punishment pillars of Confucian cultivators. What kind of immortal defense array is this? Ah. A surprised sound came from the sky. The book immortal who was dressed in pitch-black Confucian robes from before revealed his distorted figure in the void. He looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and said, You can see the punishment pillars? You also know about the immortal defense array? You who exactly are you? How could anyone on the Dawn Rain continent know about the immortal defense array? Xiaohua stopped, but Huang Tong and Feng Wu continued to fly forward. Xiaohua said lightly, You don't know, but that doesn't mean that no one knows. You're just a Confucian cultivator, just a immortal defense array, just a book immortal of the heavenly court. What's so great about that? You who exactly are you? The book immortal was obviously attracted by Xiaohua's words. He ignored the departing Huang Tong and Feng Wu. His huge figure distorted, and actually landed in front of Xiaohua. His voice trembled as he asked. Seeing that the book immortal was a little absent-minded, Xiaohua did not say anything and raised his hand. Shua. A golden light appeared and 2 golden dragons flew out. The dragons immediately imprisoned the space where the book immortal was. Moreover, before the book immortal could use any magic, the dragon's tails swung and tore through the void, landing on the book immortal's body. Wherever the dragon tails passed, not only were the punishment pillars that were tens of miles away from the 2 dragons cut in half, even the huge book immortal's figure was chopped down. Seeing that the book immortal's figure was chopped down, the black shadows were annihilated and turned into a vast chi. Xiaohua's heart was anxious. His figure shook and he disappeared from the spot. Roar! Sure enough, just as Xiaohua's figure moved away, an angry roar came from another place. Then a thick punishment pillar appeared out of nowhere like a python dragon, and rolled towards Xiaohua's previous location. Although this punishment pillar was not as fast as the soaring dragon scissors, its momentum was more powerful. It covered hundreds of miles. Although Xiaohua had already flown more than 10 miles away, he was still caught by the punishment pillar. Seeing that the axe that could destroy mountains was falling, Xiaohua sneered. Golden light shone from his body, and his transcendence golden body was displayed. A hurricane of heaven and earth spiritual chi was squeezed out from the void. In a moment, it became hundreds of feet large. Boom! Xiaohua threw a punch, but in the roar, the punishment pillar was actually broken and shattered by his punch. This! The book immortal exclaimed in surprise. His figure stepped out from the void on the other side of the punishment pillar. It was as if he was walking up a high slope. With every step, the book immortal's figure would grow by 3 times. When he was in front of Xiaohua, he had already turned into a subbody that was twice as tall as Xiaohua. Humph! Xiao Hua was naturally not to be outdone. His figure shook, and his golden body expanded again. It was at least 10,000 feet. Great success. The Book Immortal's eyes were like lightning at this time. He looked at Xiao Hua and said, "Who are you? How do you know the secret of my heavenly court?" Xiao Hua smiled and said, "At this time, what are you still doubting? The most impossible thing in your heart. Isn't it the truth?" "Impossible." The Book Immortal shook his head and said, "This old man has already investigated the Dawn Rain continent. There is no immortal in this mortal world." However, just as the Book Immortal said this, he laughed involuntarily. He raised his hand and pointed at Xiao Hua and said with a smile, "This old man understands. You are not a cultivator of the Dawn Rain continent. You are from other realms." Unfortunately, before he finished speaking, the Book Immortal's face suddenly showed surprise. He raised his eyes and looked into the distance. He said curiously, "Kunlun Mirror? You actually have the ancient magic weapon Kunlun Mirror?" After he finished speaking, the Book Immortal's body glowed with a faint golden light. As the golden light appeared, countless noble spirit flew out of the void and entered his body. As the noble spirit poured in, the Book Immortal's original Confucian robe slowly changed, revealing an armor. Moreover, the Xingming chain that was swimming around the two of them also made a metallic sound. The Book Immortal growled and said with a somewhat ferocious expression, "Your Taoist cultivation has reached the Mahayana level. You want to save people in my torture array? You're too naive, aren't you?" While speaking, the Book Immortal waved his fists. His body was like lightning, and his fists were like stars, smashing toward Xiao Hua. Seeing the Book Immortal's body swaying like a mountain whistling and the sky collapsing, Xiao Hua's blood gushed out from the bottom of his heart. He also waved his fists and met the Book Immortal's attack. He said loudly, "Okay, I will see how powerful the Book Immortal of the Heavenly Court is. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Thanks to Benbin, Xiaohua Dongfang Yushan, Honghua, Chen Fangliang, Wuqing, Aluan, Jeshan, Li Xiao 777, Little Duan Demonic Flower, Daoist Xiao, Little Jianjian, The Blue Sky 1, Kai Gui Hun, Favorite Tanhua, Loyal Fan of Divine Cultivation, Guff 8547985, and other rewards. Today's update ends. Please wait for tomorrow's update. Chapter 5198. Feng Wu took the Kunlun mirror and flew over the punishment formation with Huang Tong accompanying her. She saw that the entire punishment formation was filled with chains of punishment. These chains looked a little different from the chains of inscriptions. The chains of inscriptions were filled with rules and imperial power. Everywhere they went, everything surrendered. On the other hand, Xingming's chains were filled with the aura of punishment and the intent of annihilation. Everywhere they passed, all living beings would be killed mercilessly. Huang Tong and Feng Wu flew in and felt a great obstruction, making it difficult for them to use their divine abilities. With Feng Wu and Huang Tong like this, the Fortune Gate disciples, Sky Patrol City Sword cultivators, and cultivators found it even more difficult to cultivate. When Feng Wu flew near the Sky Patrol City, the inscription chains had already drowned all the cultivators like a wave. Regardless of whether they were Dao Gate cultivators or sword cultivators, they all formed a battle formation again. Under the command of their leader, they circulated their magic power and sword energy to resist the inscription chains. Feng Wu scanned the area with his origin sense and saw Fairy Hongxia, Wuqing, and the others standing within the group of Fortune Gate disciples under the protection of Yuanya and the Black Bear Spirit. At this time, the power of Xingming's chain was still weak. Not to mention Yuanya's Devil Spear. Even the Fortune Gate disciples could easily block it. On the other hand, the Black Bear Spirit loyally protected Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mengxiang, and the others. He did not block the inscription chains. However, Feng Wu did not dare to hesitate. He flew above everyone and activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand. He shouted, "Fortune Gate disciples, listen to my command." Ha ha. Before Feng Wu could finish, there was another wild laugh. In the void near the sword gourd, Another book immortal stepped out. He looked at the Kunlun mirror in Feng Wu's hand and laughed. This old man's luck is really good. Although I can't get the spirit-punishing vital light now. If I can get the Kunlun mirror, wouldn't it be more useful than the spirit-punishing vital light? As he spoke, the book immortal raised his hand. Tens of thousands of inscription chains turned into a huge hand, making a kacha-kacha sound as they grabbed at Feng Wu. Although the huge hand did not have much binding power, the inscription chains around Feng Wu surged like waves. Feng Wu did not dare to delay and hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Taoist, come and help me." "I'm coming." Huang Tong shouted loudly and flapped her wings. Endless space power turned into a gust of wind. Her sharp claws reached into the void. Not only did it shatter Xingming's chains, but it also reached out from the void and landed on the book immortal's heart. Rumble. Where Huang Tong's wings landed, they collided with the book immortal's hand. Thousands of chains were broken, and the nearby space almost collapsed. Pooh. Just as Huang Tong's claws were about to strike, the book immortal waved his sleeves. Countless chains formed a wall in front of the book immortal, but this seemingly indestructible wall was shattered by Huang Tong's claws. A great saint of the demon race? The book immortal was clearly somewhat astonished, and asked curiously, Daybreak Continent's Tao cultivators originally didn't even have Tribulation Transcendence cultivators. How come there are so many Supreme Stage experts now? There are many things you don't know. Huang Tong did not care about the book immortal's words. She laughed coldly and said, "You just have to hand over your life." With that, Huang Tong flapped her wings again. A powerful gust of wind rushed into the sky, messing up the broken chains. Within the gust of wind, hundreds of phantoms of phoenix claws, which could split rocks and pierce clouds, shot towards the book immortal like arrows. Seeing Huang Tong steal the limelight, the book immortal's face grew cautious. He raised his hand slightly, and the right hand that was hidden in his robes rose. A flute-like object appeared. The book immortal placed the flute by his mouth and blew gently. A pleasant sound came from the flute. This sound fell into the air, and the Xingming's chains that were shattered by Huang Tong quickly condensed. In the blink of an eye, these Xingming's chains turned into 5 different-sized generals. They danced strangely and flew towards Huang Tong. The strangest thing was that when the 5 generals flew, not only did they produce a pleasant melody, but their flight path was also in sync with the melody. It looked very magical, blocking Huang Tong from all directions. Facing the siege of the 5 generals, Huang Tong, who was proficient in the power of the soul, could not help but be shocked. His blood rushed up. When his sharp claws reached down and crushed one of the generals, his body trembled. An indescribable melody appeared in his mind. He almost cried out in surprise. This is the 5 laws of Confucianism. Gong Shang Jiao Jiu? Not bad, not bad. The book immortal heard and clapped. We Confucianism have a saying, playing the lute to a cow. I really did not expect that a demon saint from the mortal world would know the sound attack of us Confucianism. As he spoke, a few more melodious melodies sounded. Another 5 generals that were born from the 5 laws of Gong Shang Jiaojiu appeared and surrounded Huang Tong. Damn it! Huang Tong's sharp claws crushed a few more generals. However, the strange melody pierced into his mind. Even if he activated his supernatural powers, he could not block it. Huang Tong frowned slightly and thought for a while. He opened his mouth and said, "Fellow Taoist, help me." Oh. The book immortal was stunned. He turned to look at Feng Wu, who was flying towards Fairy Hongxia. However, Feng Wu did not turn around at all. Instead, she was on the left side of the book immortal, where Xiaohua and the book immortal were fighting. Rumble. A dark green lightning flashed and Taoist which flew out of space. Before his body that resembled a witch god could get close, he heard the chanting of ghosts and spirits. Green seal text the size of a fist appeared out of thin air. The moment the green seal text appeared, the 5 generals formed by the 5 laws collapsed. The melodious rhythm disappeared, and the space around him was filled with the sound of green seal text. The book immortal looked as if he had seen a ghost. He looked at Taoist which in disbelief. He raised his hand and said, You what? Give me your life." Huang Tong saw that there was an opportunity. He roared and pounced forward. His sharp claws tore through the space and grabbed at the Book Immortal. Seeing that the space around the Book Immortal was collapsing, and the Book Immortal's body was distorting, another cold snort was heard. Demons are indeed barbarians. Don't they know that they are outnumbered? Following this sound, there was the sound of a bowstring being released. So, a murderous aura suddenly appeared out of thin air. Huang Tong was so frightened that her body trembled. She opened her mouth. Woo! Dozens of demonic auras spewed out and condensed into clouds. Then, a black arrow flew out with a dark light. Within the dark light, there was a dark yellow inscription on the armor. Puff, puff, puff. The flying arrow pierced through several demonic clouds. Every time it pierced through a demonic cloud, some of the dark yellow flames would be extinguished. In the end, the flying arrow was weakened, and the dark yellow inscriptions on the armor had completely disappeared. Jiedi. Huang Tong laughed coldly. Just as he was about to speak, the inscriptions on the arrow disappeared and revealed the color of a white bone. At the same time, there was the roar of a wandering soul. The bone arrow pierced through the air again. Huang Tong was shocked. He quickly shouted, "Damn it, I forgot that you are a demonic Book Immortal." Seeing the bone arrow close in, Huang Tong quickly opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of demonic energy. This demonic energy was different from before. When it landed on the bone arrow, it was like boiling water had been poured onto snow. Chua! The screams of the wandering souls immediately disappeared, and the power of the bone arrow disappeared. It flew a few dozen feet before turning into pieces of Xingming's chain and falling into the air. You don't cultivate the power of the moon and the stars? Along with this strange voice, another Book Immortal appeared from the void at the place where the arrow was shot out from. However, this Book Immortal was dressed differently from the other Book Immortals. He wore an archery outfit with a quiver at his waist and a bow in his hand. This Book Immortal looked at Huang Tong in disbelief. 6 arts. Seeing the Book Immortal next to him holding a flute and the Book Immortal in front of him holding a bow, Huang Tong suddenly realized. He whispered, "Could it be that you are the Book Immortal's 6 arts incarnations?" Since they were incarnations of the 6 arts, there were naturally 6 of them. Huang Tong quickly released his essence to look at Feng Wu. As expected, a Book Immortal on a horse had blocked Feng Wu. Who cares about the 6 arts and 5 laws? Taoist, which didn't have much of an expression on his face. He said coldly and waved his hand. The subbrush appeared in his hand and a ray of emerald light appeared at the tip of the brush. The pure power of life pointed between the brows of the Book Immortal holding the flute. The Book Immortal holding the flute saw the subbrush passing by. Whether it was the void or the Xingming chains, there were faint green sprouts. A power of life that could destroy the devil chi in his body covered him. The Book Immortal was even more frightened. He didn't have time to play the flute, and could only wave it to defend himself. Amidst the shrill sounds, hundreds and thousands of generals flew out. They all wielded their spears and swords to fight. At this moment, Taoist, which was much more powerful than before, the continuous use of the Nirvana realm and soul bridge, and the resurrection of Ziyi and Wuxia allowed Taoist which to understand the profound meaning of life and death. Now that he was facing the Book Immortal's 6 arts incarnations, Taoist Witch's subbrush had already pointed at the life and death within 100 miles. In the wisps of emerald light, life and death were revealed. Taoist Witch seemed to have thousands of incarnations, controlling the life and death within 100 miles. In Taoist Witch's eyes, other than the laws of heaven and earth and the rules of the Book Immortal's punishment array, there were also the Xingming chains that formed a human shape according to the rhythm. At this moment, the Xingming chains formed a human shape. However, this human shape didn't have a soul and didn't care about life and death. Therefore, even though the subbrush wasn't big, it was 100 times more ferocious than the hand of heaven and earth. It killed all the generals of the 5 laws within 100 miles. Moreover, in a split second, the subbrush landed between the Book Immortal's brows. You can. Thank you to Sleepy McDull, Shrimp Adds Fire, Brick Moving Master, Yang Chenhui, 375,665, Book of Flight, Good account, Chuan Tong, Chief of Dongshan Village, Love coming in third place, Taoist Xiao, and other fellow Taoists in the book review section. There are always some omissions, please forgive me. Chapter 5199. Pa. A faint green light appeared on the Book Immortal's forehead. Then, an indescribable horror appeared in the Book Immortal's eyes. He couldn't help but raise his flute and exclaim, "The forbidden body is indeed amazing." As soon as he said that, a green light shot up to the sky from the Book Immortal's forehead. The Book Immortal's body cracked in the green light. The fragments of the body were twisted into pieces by the power of life. However, at the moment when everything was annihilated, Taoist Wuxia saw it clearly again. A wisp of true qi mixed with blood patterns quietly disappeared into the void. Even Yabai's power of life couldn't kill it. No. Taoist Wuxia looked at the disappearing true qi and exclaimed, This doesn't seem to be the 6 arts avatars. This true qi contains a strong power of life. This is the 5 qi in the chest that the Book Immortal cultivates." When Taoist Wuxia realized this, Xiaohua was fighting with the Book Immortal who appeared first. The Book Immortal was dressed as a warrior. After he couldn't defeat Xiaohua with his bare hands, he took out a battle axe. The battle axe didn't look like a real immortal imperial weapon. It was just condensed by the Xingming chains. However, the battle axe was much more powerful than a normal spiritual weapon in the punishment array. Xiaohua used the soaring dragon scissors several times. He could cut the battle axe in half or cut the Book Immortal in half. However, the moment the soaring dragon scissors left, both the battle axe and the Book Immortal recovered. Even if Xiaohua activated his magical power to seal the nearby space, he couldn't stop the noble qi from seeping in. When Xiaohua heard Taoist Wuxia's exclamation, he immediately realized what was going on. He laughed and waved his hands. Kacha! Several thunderous sounds were heard. A 3-colored thunderous hand covered the Book Immortal out of thin air. Under the thunderous hand, the power of life and death created an illusion of reincarnation. The Book Immortal was shocked and exclaimed, "This is the Tao of life and death? You're just a Mahayana Tao cultivator. How can you control it?" The power of life and death fell. The space within hundreds of miles was bleak and silent. The Xingming chains faded and broke into colorless inscriptions. At the same time, the Book Immortal's body also cracked and faded. In the end, the inscriptions on the armor turned into scattered strokes, no longer as sharp as before. "Where do you think you're going?" Xiaohua opened his mouth, and a golden thunderbolt struck the spot where the void was shattered. There, a blood-patterned true qi that was exactly the same as what Taoist Wuxia saw was quietly hiding in the void. However, before the thunderbolt fell, the blood-colored real qi shook strangely and suddenly disappeared. Just like when Xiaohua discovered the abnormality earlier. Damn it! How could Xiaohua not know that this was the result of the punishment array? He hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Taoist Wu is right. This is one of the 5 qi that the Book Immortal cultivates. In this punishment array, although the 5 qi can't be invincible, it's indestructible. We can destroy its form for a while, but as long as the true qi is not destroyed, we can never get out of the array." Fengwu was already furious when he was blocked by the Book Immortal on horseback. He abandoned the Kunlun mirror and flapped his wings. The power of the stars and the moon surged out like a tide, turning into hundreds of stars and attacking the Book Immortal. The Book Immortal used the power of the punishment array to resist the impact of the stars, but the seemingly endless stars made him unable to fight back. Seeing that the 5 qi clones were destroyed by Taoist Wuxia and Xiaohua, the Book Immortal roared, "Why don't you come out and help me?" "Oh." Fengwu was taken aback and hurriedly looked to the left. Unfortunately, the shielding of this punishment formation was too powerful. Just as Fengwu was about to find nothing, the sound of a sword rang out and a shocking sword light rushed out from behind him. It turned into a waterfall and fell on Fengwu. Before the sword light fell, Fengwu already felt a chill in his monster body. A tearing pain came from the surface of his body. "So what if I can't be destroyed?" Fengwu roared and flapped his right wing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void trembled. After the chains of punishment surged out, the power of the stars and the moon turned into the shape of stars, and went to meet the sword light. Boom, boom, boom. The sword light broke through the void and fell into the river of stars. Under the sword light, the stars were shattered one by one, and the space within 100 miles was torn into chaos. Roar! Behind Feng Wu, the Book Immortal on horseback roared. The horse under him suddenly expanded, and the Book Immortal's body merged into the horse, turning into a figure with the head of a human and the body of a horse. As soon as the figure appeared in the form of a beast cultivator, buzz! The void on the left began to distort. The figure raised its 4 hooves and suddenly passed through the power of the stars and the moon that was attacking him. It approached Feng Wu's back. The 4 hooves that were raised were covered with blood patterns and black gas as it stomped on Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't expect the Book Immortal to be able to rush through the river of stars after transforming into the form of a human and the Book Immortal. Obviously, he was caught off guard. He flapped his left wing and a shadow appeared, trying to block the horse's hooves. However, under the horse's hooves, mountains and rivers were about to shatter. Feng Wu's shadow couldn't last long. In just a moment, the shadow turned into fragments of the power of the stars and the moon, and was annihilated. Don't hurt my 5th brother. I'm coming. At this moment, the Thunder Immortal's thunderous voice sounded. A flash of lightning suddenly rushed out from the distance like a sword and stabbed straight at the Book Immortal's back. This. The Book Immortal was stunned on the spot when he saw another human Mahayana flying out. How is this possible? Normally, the Dawn Rain continent doesn't even have one tribulation transcendence. Where did so many supreme beings come from today? What scared the Book Immortal the most was that except for Xiaohua, Feng Wu, and Huang Tong, these supreme beings were already in the punishment array. He didn't know where Daoist Sorcerer and the Thunder Immortal broke in from. Kunlun Mirror. The Book Immortal turned his eyes and looked at Feng Wu. However, the Thunder Immortal's Sword of Lightning arrived first, and approached the Book Immortal in a few breaths. Damn it! The Book Immortal was surprised again and thought to himself, is this my punishment array or your family's punishment array? However, when the Book Immortal identified the rich power of life and death in the Sword of Lightning, he instantly understood something. Therefore, he simply ignored the Thunder Immortal, and continued to stomp his horse's hooves. Boom! Almost at the same time, the Book Immortal's front hooves broke the shadow of Feng Wu's left wing, and firmly stepped on Feng Wu's back. Under the front hooves, the space was torn apart and layers of awe-inspiring qi poured down. On Feng Wu's back, the brilliance of the stars and the moon shone brilliantly, but it was annihilated in a moment. Feng Wu roared and her huge monster body fell to the ground. Boom! Another loud sound was heard and more chains rushed out from the ground and bound Feng Wu's monster body. Of course, at the same time when Feng Wu fell, the Thunder Immortal's Sword of Lightning pierced deeply into the Book Immortal's body. In the roar, the power of life and death revealed a black and white vortex and destroyed the Book Immortal's body. Just as the Thunder Immortal expected, the wisp of true qi also disappeared strangely. The Thunder Immortal turned his eyes and looked at the sword light that cut Feng Wu's river of stars in half. A Book Immortal in a sword suit appeared, flashing with soaring sword intent. How dare you brandish your sword in front of me? You must be tired of living. The Thunder Immortal shouted proudly. Even if you are a Book Immortal of the Heavenly Court, I will still kill you here. After saying that, the Thunder Immortal's body emitted the sound of thunder. Countless thunderbolts turned into sword light and poured down like a waterfall. In just a moment, the Thunder Immortal's body turned into a huge sword, and the thunderbolts were engraved on the huge sword like blooming spring flowers. Boom! The Sword Immortal was still in a daze as he raised his lightning sword. The sword intent was so ferocious that it overpowered the chains of the punishment formation. Not only did the chains within a radius of 100 miles split in half, but even the Sword Immortal's body was bent under the pressure of the sword intent. Clang! The Book Immortal in a sword suit was like a proud bamboo that would rather break than bend. He bent his waist for a moment, and then the sound of his sword rang out. A dazzling golden light rushed out from the pitch-black sword suit, and the Book Immortal also turned into a huge sword that was thousands of feet long. It tore through the sky and slashed toward the Thunder Immortal. Ka 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 ka. When the two giant swords collided, Black and white light frantically gushed out from the point of contact. Then, the dazzling golden sword light collapsed like bamboo. One segment after another, one segment after another. When the golden light turned into nothingness, the thunderbolt immortal arrogantly revealed himself from the lightning. He coldly looked in a certain direction and indifferently said, "I knew you were going to run." Along with this voice, several tiny thunderbolts surged out and pounced into the void in the distance. "It's useless." Xiaohua's voice rang out. This so-called punishment array has already become a nearly independent space. The laws here have already changed somewhat. Although these changes are very slight, they are still changes. They are not something we can achieve. Although we destroyed the Book Immortal's 5 avatars, he is an almost indestructible existence in this punishment array. If we don't break this punishment array, not waiting for Xiaohua to finish. Boom, boom, boom. Earth-shaking rumbles once again resounded in the distance. The pillars that propped up heaven and earth once again grew in size. After a total of 81 chimes, the sound of chanting, the ear-piercing sound of horse hooves, and the blood-boiling sound of drums gradually resounded from the distance. Following the destruction of the 5 chi avatars, the engraving chains, which had gradually weakened, once again grew in size. Xiaohua didn't feel it before, but now he heard it clearly. The Fortune Gate's disciples, sword cultivators, and heavenly demon sect's disciples on the Dawn Rain continent had begun to fall. The axe-like punishment chains ruthlessly swept through the space and landed on their bodies. Their weak true chi couldn't withstand it at all. Amidst a bloody mess, cold corpses fell on the snowy plains. Miserable screams came one after another. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a monthly vote. Vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all kinds of support. Thank you to Sleepy McDull, Shrimp Adfire, Brick Moving Master, Yang Chenhui, 375665, Book of Flight, Good account, Chuan Tong, Dongshan Village's Head, Love Coming Third, Taoist Xiao, and other fellow Taoists in the book review section. There will always be some omissions, please forgive me. Chapter 5200. There were too many Fortune Gate disciples on the Dawn Rain mainland, but their strength was too weak. Although Li Xiang and Xiong Yi had urged the Fortune Gate disciples on the other 3 mainlands to protect the Dawn Rain mainland, they were powerless against the punishment formation that even Xiaohua was at a loss of what to do. Xiaohua glanced at Fairy Hongxia, Huang Mingxiang, and the others. He knew that they were still safe, so he waved his hand and took the Kunlun mirror from Feng Wu. He then flew to the top of the Sky Patrol City. He did not hide his cultivation, and his 1,000-feet-tall avatar stood there like a god. Xiaohua looked around and said, "Everyone, am I Xiaohua? I'm sure you're familiar with my name. You've all seen the situation today. No matter what your purpose is, or what you've done, this old man would like to thank everyone for coming to help. Now that we're in a life and death situation, we have to work together to defeat the enemy and break this punishment array." Spiritual Master Xiao. Kunlun Sect's Sect Master Xianjing was the first to speak. He shouted, "Our strength is weak, and we can only defend in this formation. It's difficult for us to fight back. We've caused trouble for Spiritual Master. Please tell us, how should we break the formation? My Kunlun sect will listen to Spiritual Master's orders." It would be a lie to say that Xianjing did not regret it. However, he had already made preparations and arrangements before he came to Sky Sentry City. Even if all the disciples of the Kunlun sect were killed, the Kunlun sect would not suffer too much damage. In order to return Xiaohua's favor, Xianjing knew that he had to listen to Xiaohua's orders. "That's right." Spiritual Master Yang Yu immediately said, "We have troubled Spiritual Master before, and now we want to atone for our sins. If there's anything you need us to do, please let us know. We'll do our best." Immediately, many other sect masters also expressed their opinions. Xiaohua saw this and smiled. "Since that's the case, then everyone listen to my orders. Form your battle teams, and listen to the orders of my Fortune Gate disciples. Go to the punishment array and break out." Yes. The group of sect leaders, including the sword cultivators, did not dare to be negligent. They all bowed and answered, "Whoa." At this time, several thousand miles away, the 81 punishment pillars let out a whale-like roar. 81 bamboo slips as big as mountains rolled up from the ground and flew towards the crowd. Each time a bamboo slip was rolled up, the world would become a little bit more transparent. A space filled with inscriptions, bamboo slips, scrolls, ink brushes, mountains of text, and a sea of words would be revealed. Not good. Xiao Hua was inwardly alarmed. Knowing that there was a change in the rules of this punishment array, he dared not hesitate any longer. Activating the Kunlun mirror, groups of Fortune Gates disciples flew out. These disciples all had cultivation of 4th grade and above, and standing in midair, they were not inferior to any sex patriarch. Xianjing and the others had previously thought that the Fortune Gates disciples Xiao Hua had mentioned were Li Xiang's group, but when they saw such an awe-inspiring Fortune Gates battle team that could sweep across the Dawn Rain mainland with a wave of their hand, they were dumbstruck. Disciples. Xiao Hua had already passed down the order in the space. At this time he waved his hand in the distance and said, "Listen to my order, protect everyone and break the punishment array." Yes. The Fortune Gates disciples shouted in unison. Disciples will obey sect master's order. This is my big brother Xiao. I knew you would have such a divine ability. Seeing so many nascent Soul Realm disciples respectfully listening to Xiao Hua's orders, Huang Mingxiang's face was flushed red with excitement. He clapped his hands loudly and stared fixedly at Xiao Hua, not wanting to shift his gaze away for even a second. Oh my! Li Zongbao, who had always been concise and comprehensive, couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He looked at Wuxia and said, "Previously I thought I knew junior brother Zhao's strength, but now, it seems like I still underestimated him. I vaguely heard the devil race say that Daoist Xiao is already a supreme expert of the human race." Wuxia's eyes also faintly lit up, and she said with admiration, "I don't know when I can cultivate to such a level." In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Yin didn't go to the Heavenly Demon 3 sex location. He carefully looked around, guarding Wuxia, Fairy Hongxia and the others. At this time, when he heard Wuxia mention it, he smiled and said, "Why is fellow Taoist envious? With Taoist Xiao here, fellow Taoists will cultivate to the peak sooner or later." Xiang Zhili and the others only listened, and it was rare that they didn't say anything. Their eyes looked around, and there was a trace of excitement on their faces. That's true. Wuxia retracted her gaze and looked at Fairy Hongxia, who had a strange expression on her face. She used her elbow to nudge her, and said with a smile, "Hongxia, I really didn't expect you to have such a good eye. With Daoist Xiao, our Kai family can do whatever we want in the Dawn Rain continent in the future." Fairy Hongxia lightly bit her lips, and her face was also filled with excitement. She looked at Xiao Hua with incomparable passion in her eyes. However, there was a trace of confusion in this passion, as if everything in front of her was a dream. Swoosh! Just when Fairy Hongxia was feeling half awake, everyone's vision blurred. Xiao Hua, who was like a god just a moment ago, turned into a stream of light and landed in front of them. Xiao Hua waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and said to Fairy Hongxia, "Hongxia, this punishment array is too dangerous. I have to focus on breaking the array, and I'm afraid I can't take care of you. In my hand is the Kunlun mirror, and within it is the Kunlun immortal realm. If it's possible, you can enter the Kunlun immortal realm with Wuxia, and it won't be too late for you to come out after I break the array." Unexpectedly, Fairy Hongxia looked at Xiao Hua and didn't reply. Instead, she turned to Li Zongbao and said, "Senior Li, what do you think?" How could Li Zongbao be the type to back down? He raised his hand and waved the immortal slaughtering whip, and said proudly, "Junior brother Xiao brought his own disciples out of the Kunlun immortal realm to break the array. They can fight a bloody battle. How can I be at ease alone? I'm not going to this Kunlun immortal realm." Fairy Hongxia smiled, and looked at Xiao Hua and said proudly, "Since Senior Li isn't going, then I won't go either." Alright. Xiao Hua already knew the outcome when Fairy Hongxia looked at Li Zongbao. He made a prompt decision. Since that's the case, you all be careful. Black Bear, yeah, protect your mistress, don't let her get hurt. Yes. I understand. Yuanya didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly bowed and answered. Black Bear Spirit shouted. Don't worry, Sect Master. With me here, I won't let mistress lose a single strand of hair. Brother Xiao, there's still me. Huang Mingxiang didn't miss the opportunity to shout. I want to go to your Kunlun immortal realm. Xiao Hua glared at Huang Mingxiang, and in a flash he landed beside the sword gourd. Imph! You heartless person! Huang Mingxiang pouted, and stomped his feet in mid-air. He wanted to fly over, but he didn't dare to provoke Xiao Hua. In a moment, thousands of nascent soul cultivators flew over and surrounded them. The leading disciple bowed and said, I'm here on Sect Master's orders to protect the seniors. Let's go. Yuanya saw Xiao Hua flying away, and ordered the leading disciple. Yes. The disciple responded, and gave the order. A Pleiades demon-devouring immortal array was formed, and under the disciple's command, it moved towards the north of Sky Patrol City. At this moment, the four spirits' blood curse had been completely broken, and the sword gourd's spirit-slaying vital light was only nailed to the fire dragon crystal. The silver tiger crystal from before had already merged with the fire dragon crystal. Xiao Hua landed, and felt the rich yin and yang energy around the fire dragon crystal. He also saw two beams of spirit-slaying vital light falling from the crystal, Xiao Mao and Hamba. That was close. Xiao Hua thought to himself with lingering fear. Fortunately, Xiao Mao and Hamba are both inside the fire dragon crystal, and their bloodlines are somewhat similar, otherwise the crystal would have collapsed long ago. At this point, the two of them should be fine, and they just need to wait for it to succeed. As he spoke, Xiao Hua raised his hand, and the spirit-slaying vital light was quickly absorbed into the sword gourd. And then the sword gourd landed in Xiao Hua's hand. Xiao Hua looked around with some regret, and laughed. Seems like that book immortal is also a coward. I placed the sword gourd here, and he didn't dare to take it. Book immortal naturally wouldn't agree. He had already seen through such a small trick, and it was impossible for him to take the bait. Xiao Hua felt bored, and as the Kunlun mirror swayed, it absorbed the fire dragon crystal into the space, and then looked around for a moment, and asked in a low voice, what do you think is the difference between this punishment array and an ordinary demonic array? In front of the sect masters of the Dawn Rain continent, it was obviously not suitable for Demon Venerable Shi to appear, but he had already checked the punishment array without anyone noticing. Hearing Xiao Hua's question, Demon Venerable Shi hurriedly replied, Big brother, this punishment array should be an extremely powerful immortal defense array, because it was set up by the Book Immortal, and on the Dawn Rain continent. The immortal defense array is restricted by the laws of the continent, and also limited by the materials, so it can only display 30% of its power. The most important thing is that the Dawn Rain continent doesn't have noble spirit, or rather, although there is noble spirit, this noble spirit can precipitate very little of the human race's literary chi, and it isn't enough to support the needs of the punishment array. So the Book Immortal has to rely on the 81 punishment pillars to maintain the punishment engraved chains and the laws of the array. Previously, when you were fighting with the Book Immortal's 5 chi incarnation, I had already carefully looked at the source of the punishment engraved chains. They all came from the 81 punishment pillars. If Big Brother wants to break the array, he has to push down the 81 punishment pillars. And Xiao Hua nodded and said, although Big Brother didn't look carefully, he saw the bamboo slips coming out from the punishment pillars, and the Book Immortal wanted to change the rules of the punishment array. So Big Brother felt that these punishment pillars might be the array core of the punishment array. That's why Big Brother sent the Fortune Gate disciples to break the array. But if that's the case, Big Brother should have pushed down the punishment pillars at the beginning, but now he missed the opportunity. No. Demon Venerable Shi hurriedly shook his head and said, these 81 punishment pillars need to be pushed down at the same time. Big Brother pushed them down first. There's no meaning. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Thank you to Starry Sky Recreation 8, and other fellow Taoists for your support. Chapter 5201. After saying that, Demon Venerable Sure hurriedly added, Big brother, you underestimated this punishment array. Although this punishment array can only exert 30% of its power, since it was able to set up a punishment array near the Sky Patrol City, it's impossible for ordinary disciples to destroy it. Moreover, this book immortal was originally a human. Since he became a demon, he must have a motive. This punishment array is a punishment array of Confucian cultivators. Maybe it's the blood sacrifice array of the book immortal. Previously, when Xingming's chains twitched, many low-level disciples died. This little brother has already seen their flesh and souls being absorbed by Xingming's chains. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and looked at the tide of people rushing to different parts of the punishment array under the command of the Fortune Gate disciples. He nodded slightly and said, Looks like this book immortal really lives up to his name. In the 4 continents, I'm afraid only the Heaven Alliance, Tao Alliance, and Fortune Gate can break this punishment array. Even the Great Sage Temple, Dragon Island, Immortal Palace, and Thunder Temple can barely do it. Hee, that's right. Demon Venerable Sure chuckled and said, Only Big Brother's Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demonic Array can resist this punishment array. We can't do anything. Actually, that's not necessarily true. Xiao Hua had already made up his mind. He waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand and said, If it weren't for the fact that there are so many humans in the punishment array, we would have killed the enchanted book immortals one by one. I don't believe we can't kill him. Didn't Big Brother say that? Demon Venerable Sure laughed and said, All assumptions don't count. After all, if nothing happens. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and hundreds of quasi-9 tribulation scattered souls flew out and formed the Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demonic Array around Xiao Hua. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to say anything, the hundreds of scattered souls maintained the Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demonic Array and flew in all directions. Damn it! As soon as the scattered nascent soul flew out, an exasperated voice came. In the sky, a book immortal holding a flying sword, a book immortal riding a black horse, a book immortal holding a flute in his hand, a book immortal with a quiver on his waist, and a book immortal holding an axe with his bare arm all appeared. The book immortal holding a flying sword in his hand could not help but say angrily, How many supreme masters of the human clan are there in your Kunlun fairyland? I'm not sure. Xiao Hua shrugged and said, Senior, if you want to know, you might as well come in and take a look. While speaking, Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror. A 5-colored light beam shot up into the sky and shone towards the book immortal holding the flying sword. Along with the sound of sizzling, the book immortal holding the flying sword broke into pieces. The face of the book immortal holding the flying sword changed drastically. His body swayed and flew to the side. When the book immortal with the flying sword moved, the other book immortals also scattered like birds and beasts. Haha! At this moment, the Thunder Immortal, Fengwu, Huangtong, and Daoist Witch all flew over and surrounded the 5 Qi doppelgangers. The Thunder Immortal laughed unreasonably and rubbed his hands together. Thick thunderbolts started to wreak havoc again. The Flying Sword Immortal saw that the thunderbolts were like tides and confined the space around him. How could he not know the intention of the Thunder Immortal? He roared angrily and waved his hands. Tens of thousands of book immortals' chains appeared in the space around him. Puff! The Flying Sword Immortal breathed a mouthful of true qi into the book immortal's chains. Immediately, the chains emitted a dazzling golden light. The book immortal's axe-shaped chains transformed into flying swords. Buzz buzz. All the chains trembled and easily covered the space around the Thunder Immortal. Then, the Flying Sword Immortal's body swayed, and a force that was beyond the 9th level of true qi appeared around him. Crack! As soon as this force appeared, the restrictive spells of heaven and earth fell from the sky. However, where the restrictive spells of heaven and earth fell, the book immortal's chains, which had transformed into flying swords, emitted dazzling sword light and blocked the power of law. My goodness! The Thunder Immortal was surprised and yelled, You have such a divine ability? The Flying Sword Immortal waved his hand, and the thunderbolts disappeared bit by bit. They didn't even get close to the Flying Sword Immortal. The Flying Sword Immortal raised his hand and pointed a finger. A flying sword came from the sky and instantly covered the space within 100 miles. Wherever the sword light pointed at, everything was destroyed. The flying sword immortal laughed wildly and said, "Haha, ignorant kid, you don't deserve to know the divine ability of a heavenly court immortal." Unfortunately, as soon as the flying sword immortal finished speaking, the thunderbolts around the thunder immortal also surged. A force that was beyond the 9th level of true chi was released without fear. At the same time, the thunder immortal slapped the top of his head. Boom! 5-colored true chi mixed with thunderbolts flew out and condensed into a huge thunderous hand that was twice as powerful as before. As the huge hand grabbed at the air, all the sword lights within 100 miles dimmed. How is this possible? The flying sword book immortal was dumbfounded. However, just as he was lost in thought, Xingming's chains shattered, and the laws of heaven and earth fell like a waterfall, imprisoning the flying sword book immortal's divine ability. Of course, the divine ability on the thunder immortal's hand that surpassed that of the Dawn Rain continent also disappeared. Even so, the flying sword immortal still couldn't escape the fate of being killed by the power of life and death. His entire body was shattered and turned into true chi. Of course, this result was beyond the flying sword immortal's expectation. However, it was still acceptable. After all, as long as the punishment formation was not broken, he would be immortal. Unfortunately, the flying sword immortal still underestimated the thunder immortal's insidiousness. The moment he turned into a wisp of true chi, the thunder immortal unfolded his Taoist robe. With a whoosh, a black and white light curtain fell from the sky. The spirit-killing vital light pierced through the punishment formation and pierced into the void. Ah! A hoarse scream was heard in the void. At the place where the spirit-killing vital light was torn, a wisp of true chi engraved with strange bloodstains was revealed. A primordial spirit in the shape of a human was vaguely hiding in the true chi. The spirit-killing vital light was nailed to the head of this human figure. Just as I expected. The thunder immortal smiled and pointed at the sword gourd. With a light crack, the spirit-killing vital light pierced through the head of the human figure and cut off its head. The flying sword immortal's primordial spirit was killed. The other primordial spirits were all in a panic. They didn't dare to hesitate anymore and tried to fly away. Unfortunately, since they had found the way to kill the primordial spirit of the book immortal, how could Xiao Hua and the others let these 5 chi avatars escape? Feng Wu, Huang Tong, and Taoist priest sorcerer all sneered and blocked the other avatars. These avatars saw that they were no match for Xiao Hua and the others, so they all used their magical powers to resist. However, in the face of an opponent who was stronger than them and the spirit-killing vital light, the other 4 avatars were killed in a short time. Since the book immortal's 5 chi clones had been killed, the entire punishment formation changed once again. The 100,000 snowy plains under the control of the punishment formation shook violently, and the bamboo slips that destroyed everything in the bamboo slips began to collapse. The inscriptions on the armor, the bamboo slips, the scrolls, the ink brushes, the mountains of literature, the seas of words, and other objects that covered the world also began to be destroyed. Humph! Humph! Around the punishment array, cold snorts sounded one after another. Xiao Hua was shocked. He raised his head and saw that the punishment pillars around the punishment array had already transformed into human forms. Every human form had the appearance of a book immortal. Seeing this, Xiao Hua was not shocked but happy. He said coldly, "Since the punishment formation has revealed its true form, how can you escape?" Human Mahayana Realm. The 81 book immortals spoke at the same time. I didn't expect that the Dawn Rain continent, where Taoism is declining, would have an anomaly like you. However, since you forced me to appear, it's time for you to die. Oh, Xiao Hua was taken aback. He looked at the 81 indomitable book immortals, and then looked at the hundreds of scattered nascent souls who were still maintaining the Golden Crow immortal slaying demonic formation. He was extremely puzzled. After all, when he released the scattered nascent souls, he didn't hide it from the avatars. How could the true body of the book immortal not know? Before Xiao Hua could think about it, he saw the book immortal's body near the book immortal. However, this time, the immortal's chains did not jump into the punishment formation. Instead, They broke apart in the air and turned into numerous immortals' axes. These tens of millions of immortals' axes circled in the air for a moment and quickly fell on the book immortal's child body. In just a moment, the child body turned into a huge axe. In my name, I punish the world. 81 earth-shaking voices were heard. The 81 immortals' axes were activated at the same time. The sharp blades cut through the air, and the entire punishment formation shrunk toward the center. Seeing that the punishment formation was shrinking, the faces of the hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators turned solemn. They raised their hands in unison and formed an immortal art. Layers of bright silver light emanated from their bodies, and thunderous forces condensed in the golden crow immortal slaying demon formation, ready to be unleashed. Xiaohua flew in the air and looked around coldly. He said loudly, "Those who send out their troops with a reason are invincible. How can those who send out their troops without a reason be victorious? Those who control the punishment of the heavens and do righteous things will never be defeated. Those who act rashly because of selfish desires will harm the harmony of the heavens and harm the benefits of the earth. Heaven and earth must kill them. Everyone listen to my command, kill to stop killing." Kill. The hundreds of scattered souls roared. The power of thunder borrowed the momentum of the golden crow immortal slaying demon formation to produce the power of thunder punishment. The hundreds of thunderbolts met the 81 immortal slaying demon formation. When the punishment formation met the demon formation, the heavens and earth shook. The entire space of 10,000 miles fell into a kind of dusk. The originally clear sky was now filled with fierce winds. Large patches of dark clouds covered the already pale sun. Not only that, huge cracks appeared in the sky. Hail, wind, and thunder mercilessly fell. Looking at the ground again, dozens of huge cracks also appeared on the snowy plains. As the cracks expanded with a rumbling sound, mountain rocks burst and snowy peaks collapsed. Layers of strange underground wind also soared into the sky and intertwined with the heavenly wind. It was as if countless large hands were tearing the heavens and earth apart. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark and reward. Thank you for all forms of support. However, he didn't comprehend more about the divine ability of punishment, and didn't understand what this heavenly punishment and earthly punishment meant. However, seeing the strangeness of the world, how could he not know that a great calamity of life and death would follow? Xiaohua inwardly cursed, then raised his voice. Fellow Taoists, Fortune Gate disciples, form the Metropolis Star Formation. Following Xiaohua's command, the inexplicable space under the sword tomb where the demonic Confucian cultivators had flown out was still filled with black gas. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the pitch black and blood-red color suddenly boiled. It was like a myriad of streams returning to their origin as they surged towards a certain spot in space. When the black qi and blood-red color in space disappeared, a human-shaped shell that was 10,000 feet in size was revealed. This body was covered by black qi. Within the black qi, there were countless blood tattoos that swam like spiritual snakes. Under the black qi and blood tattoos, there was a faint golden color that pierced out. The pitch black and blood-red color fell into the human-shaped shell and covered it again. Countless devil and blood tattoos surged, and a huge battle armor was born. The face of the human-shaped shell was still covered by black qi, and no one could see its true appearance. However, at this time, two sharp sword-like eyes appeared from the devil qi and pierced through the devil qi. A pair of golden eyes appeared in the devil qi. At first, there was a layer of confusion in the eyes, but it quickly turned cold. The huge body slowly sat up, and with every inch it sat up, the entire space trembled a little. The heaven and earth in the vicinity of Sky Patrol City was so quiet that no one dared to disturb the order of heaven and earth. Xiaohua's order resounded between heaven and earth. It was so loud and so bold. The majesty in this voice was no less than the heaven punishment and earth punishment that was formed previously. Everyone suddenly broke free from the heaven punishment and earth punishment. Yes, the group of Fortune Gate disciples responded in unison. Their respectful voices also reverberated through heaven and earth, breaking the invisible order. Woo woo woo. Before the Fortune Gate disciples could move, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. In the direction of the Sword Tomb, tens of thousands of layers of red clouds rushed out and turned into tassels that covered the horizon. Not long after, the red clouds turned into the shape of a Confucian crown. The pressure on the Confucian crown was so heavy that it seemed as if the sky could not hold it. Boom! The Confucian crown fell and made a huge rumbling sound. Then the earth trembled, the hills collapsed, and a surge of evil chi rushed out from the ground. A black shadow that was thousands of feet tall slowly stood up from the ground. Every time this black shadow moved, the earth would tremble, and the laws of heaven and earth in the sky, which were invisible to the naked eye, would fall down once. Book Immortal. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and stood up. The surging aura had already flooded over. This aura seemed to be more powerful than Su Ji's and Fairy Xing Yu's immortal spiritual energy. If it was under normal circumstances, Xiaohua might have activated the light escape art to escape. It was unwise to fight this Book Immortal who had turned into a demon. However, Xiaohua was unable to abandon the several million Fortune Gate's disciples and the 3 Dao's disciples, not to mention his lover, his family, and his brothers and sisters in the Fortune Gate. After a powerful divine sense swept over, 2 beams of clear light that could see through the mysteries of heaven and earth swept over. Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt Immortal were already in their eyes. Xiaohua knew that this was the birth of the Book Immortal, so he didn't have time to put the cultivators on the ground into his space. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and said, "Fellow Taoists, let's go. Darling Xiao, be careful." Before the Thunderbolt Master and the others could say anything, a weak voice sounded in the distance. Xiaohua looked up and saw Fairy Hongxia standing among the Fortune Gate disciples, shouting with all her might. Xiaohua took a deep breath, and the gloominess in his heart was swept away. He nodded slightly at Fairy Hongxia, and there was only determination in his eyes. "Big brother Xiao, I love you." Huang Mingxiang's voice rang out. "When you kill the devil race, I will definitely marry you and become your Tao companion. I will wait for you to return victorious." If anyone else heard these words, they would definitely be overjoyed. However, when Xiaohua heard these words, his heart couldn't help but tighten. Fortunately, Xiaohua looked at Fairy Hongxia. Other than indifference, Fairy Hongxia's face was graceful, as if she didn't care about Huang Mingxiang's words at all. Xiaohua's heart relaxed. He waved his hand at Fairy Hongxia and ordered, "Fellow Taoists, Fortune Gate disciples, listen to my orders. Protect the Dawn-Rain continent's human disciples and retreat towards the south. Fellow Taoists, help me to defend against the enemy." "Yes." The disciples replied in unison. More than 100 scattered nascent soul cultivators prepared to retreat. However, at this moment, boom boom boom. The earth and sky changed again. Countless red lotus-shaped flames surged out and surrounded all the cultivators. The hundreds of scattered nascent soul cultivators didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly formed the capital Heaven Star formation to block the red and black flames. Red lotus karmic fire? Seeing this, Xiaohua couldn't help but cry out. This Book Immortal who has turned into a devil. How does he know about the red lotus karmic fire? He could only see the vague Confucian crown and armor of the enchanted Book Immortal, the quiver on his waist, and the sword in his hand. However, since he had seen the 5 Chi avatars of the enchanted Book Immortal, Xiaohua could somewhat distinguish the appearance of the enchanted Book Immortal. Looking at the ground under the enchanted Book Immortal, it seemed that the ground could not bear the weight of the Book Immortal. With every step the enchanted Book Immortal took, the ground would collapse for hundreds of feet. At this point, not only was the Sword Tomb destroyed, but even the snowfield from the Sword Tomb to the Sky Patrol City was also destroyed. Heaven and earth were in a mess. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and reward it. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.